Good evening. Welcome to our city council meeting here on May 13th of 2025. We appreciate your attendance and council, welcome. Thank you for being here and have some important issues to discuss this evening. We'll start tonight by having one of our city residents, Mr. Philip Swanson, giving us the invocation, leading us, or whatever thought or invocation at his choice, and then leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Swanson.
Thanks, Council, Mayor. As I was listening to a podcast the other day, I heard an interesting thing. I don't know how many of you are aware of the Strasbourg Cathedral over in Europe. It's a beautiful cathedral. It was started in the year 1050-ish when the first basement foundational stones were laid. It wasn't finished until the 1450s. So almost 400 years, 4 centuries of craftsmen and workmen and residents working together to build this beautiful cathedral, most of whom, the vast majority of whom, never got to see the final product. It reminded me a lot of what you do here on council. You lay a lot of foundational stones. You do a lot of work that you will probably not ever see the complete fruition of. But you're laying those foundational stones and building those walls upon which the city will rest in years and decades to come as we approach, the decades to come, and we're close to build out, and we're at 40-some thousand residents instead of 20-some thousand residents, and everything is bigger and more complex and more difficult to do. All of that will rest on the foundations that you're building today. So I'm grateful for the work that you do and those foundations that you're building, and hope that you'll just remember that perspective, that you'll probably not get to see the end product of everything that you're working on today. So thank you. If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. We appreciate your involvement in our meeting this evening. We'll now have a presentation related to the state of Utah's Constitution bee winners. And I understand Cherie Kimball is going to make that presentation. Cherie, would you like to come forward and tell us a little bit about it? And
all right. Could all of our teams that are here come forward? Bring it up. Okay. This is, come on, you two more teams, come up. This is a small group, a small amount of the people that we had representing our city. We had 4 elementary teams, 2 junior high teams, and a high school team representing our city. And each of them had 4 people on it. So again, this is just a small group. On April 29th and 30th, a statewide competition was held at the state capitol rotunda in Salt Lake City called the Constitution Bee. There are numerous teams competing in this yearly competition, with participants from Draper to Logan and having 3 divisions: elementary, junior high, and high school. The purpose of the Constitution Bee is to help students learn the details of our most important national documents that establish our freedoms. These documents include the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the amendments to the Constitution. Several months before the competition, students form teams of 4 to 6 individuals. Each student is given a study guide with questions, concepts, and answers dealing with these documents. Each round, 2 teams compete against each other, answering 16 questions. When a person knows an answer to a question, he or she buzzes, and the first to buzz and answer the question correctly gets points. 5 points for half of an answer, 10 for a complete answer, and 15 for an above and beyond answer. How many of you answered questions that got 15 points? Those were hard to get. The team with the most points at the end of each round was the winner, After the determined number of rounds, winners are determined and awards presented. Sorry, I'm out of order. I believe our principal, Mrs. Cox, is here. We'd like to thank her. She is always so supportive. And we also need to thank our teacher, Mrs. Chertuti, in the elementary, because when she heard about this, she ran. And we had, like I said, 4 teams from the elementary, and that's pretty amazing. When I read your team name, would you please raise your hand? Turn around so everybody can see you. Please. Thank you. All right. Dream Chasers. We had parent coach Megan Day. On the team was Molly Day, Kate Hills, Avery Staley, and Lorelei Spencer. We had the Constitution Queens with parent coach Stacy Baker, including Vivian Baker, Amelia, is it Schwepp?
It's Shep.
Shreppy, Jocelyn Bent, and Millie Wagner. They took 5th place, right? You got 4th. I'm sorry, I got it out of order. The Royals, where we had parent coach Nicole Hodgson, including on the team Ainsley Hodgson, Ramey Parkinson, Ruby Lunt, and Liam Wilmerth. No, they tied for 3rd place, and you guys had to compete to see who got 3rd and who got 4th, right? I think they
told us that we had 2 that tied for 3rd.
Okay, so there we go. They were 3rd. Okay. Then we had the Phoenix Knights. I was the parent coach for them. On that team, we had Aaron Hipwell, Shay Shampton, Anicia Brady, and Richard Kimball. This was our 1st place team. They did amazing. Yeah, the state 1st place team, not just our first place team. A side note, I got a call 2 days before the competition, before the junior high competition, a day before the elementary. And they called and said, we've got a team on the junior high that's lost a player for medical reasons. Can you grab one of your elementary students and have them play on the junior high level? And I said, well, can they still do the elementary school level? She says, absolutely. It's 2 different days. So Richard, because I was going to be there for Sam anyways, got to play on a junior high level as well. Was a different experience, huh? Yep. All right. For our junior high division, we had the declarators with parent coach Reed Miller. Included was Taylor Wimmer, Matthew Louder, Ace Shampton, and Aiden Crossman. And then we had the Freedom Warriors. Again, I was the parent coach here. It had Sam Kimball, Lewis Krause, Leah Christensen, and Emery Christensen. And this was the state 3rd place team. Our high school division, we had the Liberty Falcons. Parent coaches were Otto and Zena Krause, including, I do not know, Salem Mon, Rihanna Louder, Brandon Krause, and Caitlin Krause. The competition was tough this year. It was harder than last year. But I want to show you what some of these guys know. Who can tell me what Article 6 is about? What is it, Richard?
Article 6 is the supremacy clause. And the supremacy clause declares that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and no laws made by Congress can be suppressed.
Good job. All right, I bet you guys know this one. Are we a republic or a democracy, and what's the difference? Remember? Who knows? What is it?
We have a republic, and the difference is a democracy has no oath to office. It has no unalienable rights. It has no constitution, no laws they have to follow, and it's ruled by majority.
Good job. All right. If you ever want to see something truly amazing, you should come watch these kids compete. It's every spring. Their knowledge and understanding of our founding documents is truly amazing. And thank you for giving us the time to recognize these amazing kids.
Good job. We're surely proud of our teams and understand the importance of civic responsibility and knowledge in today's environment. So keep up the good work, and we appreciate your efforts. And also those who coached, appreciate your commitment of time. So thank you so much. Okay, we'll move on then. Did you want to leave before we move on, or did you want to stay for the whole place? Okay.
You're welcome to stay.
Yeah, yeah. There will be questions on the test next year about what took place tonight. I just want to point out.
Okay, yeah. See you guys.
All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The agenda was sent out late last week. I think you've all had a chance to review it. Anything on the agenda you feel you have a conflict you'd like to disclose this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 3. This is a discussion or action to approve the April 22nd, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. I assume you've all had a chance to look at those and submit any changes to Ryan. That being the case, is there any further discussion before I seek a motion? All right, I'd seek a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. We have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Dowpaz. Any further corrections or discussions? All right, I do not see any, so all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. We'll move into our active agenda, and first thing we'll have is public comments. If you'd like to make a comment this evening, that would be the time to step up to the podium, state your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden, just a reminder, if you'd limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes. John, if there's anybody online that would like to comment.
Hello, I'm Sandy Cochran. I am a North Ogden resident. I sent you all an email this week about the decision on banning commenting on your Facebook page. And I would just like to read that email now so it's on the record. Here are my thoughts on the city deciding to ban commenting on the official Facebook page. The definition of social media encompasses websites and applications designed for communication, community-based input, interaction, content sharing, and collaboration. The function of social media allows users to create and share content, participate in social networking, and engage in conversations. The impact of social media is significant on individuals and society, with both positive and negative consequences, including potential for connection and engagement, but also for misinformation, hate speech, and cyberbullying. The common denominators are interaction, networking, and communication. Stopping commenting on your Facebook page will leave you with statements and directives, and that's not communication. The President of the United States, along with countless other celebrities, uses social media nearly every day for lots of reasons, the least of which is cyberbullying, and countless others direct those same type of comments right back to him. Unfortunately, that is a part of social media. It's not always flattery and compliments and a rational exchange of ideas. Sometimes it's petty and mean. The Supreme Court ruling allows for instances when comments can be removed from a post, primarily threats of violence, inciting imminent lawlessness, obscenities, and comments that are not specific to the topic of the post. The example I was given by Katie for the decision to stop allowing commenting was a post about a city employee that was receiving negative comments directed at the employee's spouse. Those type of comments could have been removed. I understand it seems unfair, but it seems we all need to grow a thicker skin when dealing with social media. Or you could ask the employee if they want to share on social media or just on the city website. I think it's a bit arrogant to not allow commenting without the interaction and communication of others. Your Facebook page becomes a bulletin board that takes advantage of the Facebook platform. If all you want is a bulletin board, that's what your website is for. I think if you're going to accept using social media, you have to accept it all, good, bad, and ugly. So that was my email, and there's one more thing I'd like to add. Everyone in the city is not going to write emails or publicly stand up at a city council meeting. Commenting on Facebook was fast and simple for most people to get their views across to you. And I'm wondering if anyone that's supporting this ban on commenting is willing right now to say that's where they stand.
That vote will take place as part of the meeting.
Excuse me?
That vote will take place as part of the meeting. It's on the agenda, so I don't think we'll be speaking up right now.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Philip Swanson, North Ogden resident, again. Thank you for taking on this difficult issue, talking about the Facebook comments. You know that I'm pretty active on Facebook. And over the years, over the last decade, I've had my share of ugliness come. I think it's important to remember that our founding fathers understood that our democracy, our republic, I'm glad the kids are gone because they would have shot me for getting that wrong. Our republic would be messy, and that the republic that we have with elected representatives, our political process is a messy process, and intentionally so. I don't think that this discussion that you're having tonight is a right versus wrong, good versus bad. It's a difference, right? There are, as has been explained, that I've looked up online and talked to attorneys, that there are legal reasons that the Facebook comments can be turned off. And I understand, and those are valid reasons. I also understand citizens' reasons for wanting comments to be on there. I think those are equally valid. You guys get to make the decision on what's going to happen. But I think what's important is that we don't let this become divisive in our community. And that if council decides to turn off commenting on the North Ogden One North Ogden page, that you consider finding some way through social media, since it's so heavily used nowadays, that individuals in the community can comment, can ask questions, and can voice their opinions about things. Maybe it's another page. Maybe it's some other mechanism. I don't know. But I think you owe it to the residents to consider finding a way that allows them, aside from not everybody has the comfort of getting up and speaking in front of you. Not everybody has a desire to write an email or really is comfortable in putting their thoughts into writing in an email in a way that would be understood well. Some people just like to use Facebook and other social media. So I hope that you'll try to find a way to give residents that voice that they are obviously, that some are saying that they want. I like that voice. I don't have a problem with it. But I'm not the one making the decision. I'm not the one that's having to man. I certainly understand the desire to protect the line employees from the abuses that can come through Facebook. They didn't sign up for that. Part of the application process to be a city employee is not, are you willing to accept the ire and the angst of the residents around you? Those of you that are elected officials, you understand the day that you put your name on that candidate filing, that you're going to get it with both barrels from both those that love you and those that do not. So you sign up for it. The line employees do not. And so if there's a way to give that voice to the people without exposing our employees to unnecessary and really abuse that they shouldn't have to put up with, I think that would be a good thing for our community. Thank you.
John, anyone online? Public comment?
We do have one. Susan Kilborn has her hand raised.
Okay, let's hear from Susan.
Happy Tuesday, North Ogden City. Susan Kilborn, Facebook fanatic and resident of North Ogden. I just want to echo what Sandy Cochran and Phil Swanson said. Having been on Facebook since 2009 and have created groups of my own, plus my own Facebook page, and an ardent follower of the North Ogden One City page, I have found on there probably 10 to maybe even more than that, 100 to 1 more positive comments on that page than I have negative. And as the aforementioned speakers have said, there are easy ways to eradicate and eliminate and also post that if you post disparaging and hurtful, etc., you can draw your parameters, in other words, and then you just block that person. But I love reading about all the things that are going on from other people who are saying what their children or events are going on at the school. I don't know that from the North Ogden City page. And as a proponent for probably almost every time I talk on here of trying to get and encourage more community involvement, I think that should you make the decision to cut out all comments, you are making a very big mistake and telling the public, we don't care what you think. And if you need somebody to help monitor that page, boy, you've got your volunteer gal right here. Because believe me, I can praise and I can disconnect real easy. Thank you for listening to me and have a good meeting, everybody, tonight.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else like to comment? Anyone else online, John? I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Nope.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We'll move on now to item number 5. This is a discussion or action to approve an agreement with Weber Communities That Care, commonly known as CTC, for positive messaging posters and murals at the North Ogden Skate Park. And I think we have with us Cher Rowley to make a presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Council, for having us. I am again Cher Rowley with Weber CTC, and I'm the community coordinator, and I have some guests here with me, but I also have some documents I'd like to present to the council. May I approach you?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks.
So Weber CTC is a coalition that has a youth council and an adult council. So I'm going to invite a couple of our youth councils to also speak to this mission because they are the ones driving these forces. Can I have Sydney, Eli, and Scarlett come on up here, please? Go ahead, Sydney.
Hi, my name is Sydney Gunderson, and I will be talking about the Weber CTC's mission. Our mission is to strengthen our youth, families, and our community. We can do this by prioritizing underage substance prevention and by emotional health promotion.
Good job.
Hi, I'm Scarlett Solomon. I'm actually the secretary of the Weber CTC, and I just kind of wanted to tell you what exactly in Tarnation that we're doing and kind of why we're doing that. So at the skate park, we saw that there was a lot of concern with substance misuse happening, as well as we have anecdotal evidence, and we also got to speak with our lovely police chief about what he personally has been seeing. because this is a data-driven campaign. We've really been looking into it. So through Sharp survey data, which is a Weber County survey, the Student Health and Risk Prevention Survey that's given to 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th graders in our community, found that 88% of our youth are feeling especially safe when they are at a park or outdoor community space. And so we thought, why not take advantage of that to drive community connection? And we thought, why not bring the skate park into this, because it's such a staple in our community. So it's really struggling right now. We've had 134 calls specifically about the skate park, which is a record-breaking number in the past 7 years. Never seen any of that before. So we thought we could bring in a local artist to paint a live mural on the skate park, bring in youth that use the space, so the skaters in the area, to kind of destigmatize skating, but also bring out these community members, because that's what they are. They are contributing to a community space. And we'd also like to invite other youth to come and learn about skateboards, taking care of themselves and their skateboard, and writing positive messages on the sidewalk with chalk. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eli Hopkins, and I'm going to be talking about vandalism specifically with the skate park, because there has been quite a bit of that as a problem. And so, as that being a concern, we have made a plan to resolve the issue as a coalition, and our responsibility to clean it up. Open for discussion for turnarounds, but the Weber CTC youth and adult members will provide support with cleanup. But our hopes are that this installment will reduce vandalism, but creating pride for the space. And so we could cover up crude words, within 24 hours, and it would take at least 1 week to repaint. Scratch tags would take 72 hours to cover up, and at least 2 weeks to repaint. And excessive repeated damage would be covered up with solid color. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for listening to our Youth Council to present that information. But that is our objective, is to clean up the park a little bit and make it a positive space for the youth in our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions before?
You need to vote.
Yeah. Just wanted to know before we take a vote if there's any questions. Okay. Our city recorders asked for a roll call vote on this. So I would need a council member to make a motion to approve the presentation and agreement with the Weber CTC.
Mayor, I move that we approve the relationship with the city and the CTC Council. I think it's an incredible idea.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember
Second.
Severing.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson. Are there any further questions or discussion? So, okay, I think Councilmember Pulver had a question. August 14th is the target date to do this. I'm seeing heads nodding, so that would answer your question. Councilmember Watson?
I just wanted to point out that at the meeting, I was there as well as Ryan Barker when we discussed this with part of the CTC. And I just wanted to point out that members of the parks maintenance team were there also to provide their feedback. And so with this proposal, they support that.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome proposal. So we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. We have several items to vote on this evening. So we'll start with Councilmember Severing, then go to Councilmember Watson, Councilmember Barker, back to Councilmember Pulver, and end up with Councilmember Dalpas. So let's start the vote with you, Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson.
Yes.
Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpas.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll look forward to great improvement over there. Thanks for putting that together and for your efforts. We appreciate your involvement in the community.
Mayor, just a reminder about the.
Do you have a motion you'd like to make?
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpas?
I hope our meeting doesn't last this long, but just in case, I would like to motion that we bring up agenda number 10 to right now. I have a personal commitment at 8:15. We might be done, we might not. So I would like to motion that we bring the Facebook discussion next.
Okay, that would be discussion on the action on the comments on the Facebook page, correct?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Watson. Any questions for Councilmember Dalpaz? If not, then we'll move forward with Councilmember Dalpaz making the presentation and comments.
Sounds good. Do we want to vote on the motion?
Oh,
Or
I guess we could.
we had
If
a,
you'd like to, let's start, let's just take a voice vote on that. All in favor of the motion made by Councilmember Dalpaz to move the item number 10 up to 6, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now Councilmember Dalpaz, would you like to lead the discussion?
Sure. I appreciate that. I've been very nervous about this conversation because I'm stuck between employees facing potential harassing comments on the Facebook page. We all know that's not something that we want. That's something that is not very fun to think about. But we're also faced with this idea that our residents, even though time and time again, when I'm engaging on Facebook, that it's very common for me to plead with people, please call the mayor, call the city council members, email us, message us, let us know how you feel. Because a lot of times I'm not a Facebook expert and I'm not always on it, but I feel like I'm probably on it more than I'd like to admit, and probably more than most of you guys. And so I feel like a lot of times I'm out there commenting and saying, hey, reach out to the council to let people or let us know how you feel, because I can't always convey those messages properly just myself and feeling obligated to bring them up at the meeting. So I wanted to start with that. And then since I am nervous about this and I've been worried about what I was going to say, I kind of have something I wanted to, that I have written up. I'm firmly against disallowing comments on the One North Ogden Facebook page. Like it or not, perception is reality, and our residents have been given a message that they have, what they have to say doesn't matter. While city administration's decision to disallow commenting is technically legal, it doesn't make the decision right. North Ogden, the mayor and council have never been under any obligation to reply to comments on social media pages. I regularly frequent the city's Facebook page and review citizen comments to get an idea how people feel about policies and what's happening in North Ogden. The examination of comments has only improved my effectiveness as a city councilman. For years, we've encouraged residents to come and comment at public meetings or to send mayor and council an email with their thoughts. The truth is, not many residents get to this point, and that's okay. We're losing out on valuable suggestions and feedback. I'm confident we can come to a resolution where our employees feel safe while protecting resident rights to be involved. Just one other thing is I just looked into other pages because I want to know where we are compared to other cities. Cities that are allowing Facebook comments consist of Farmington, Kaysville, Ogden City, Pleasant View, Harrisville, Far West, Plain City, Clearfield, Layton, Logan, Bountiful, North Salt Lake, Syracuse, West Valley, Lehigh, Alpine, Highland, Park City, Sandy, Riverton, Harriman, Centerville, West Point, South Jordan, West Jordan, St. George, and Beaver. Two cities that I noticed pick and choose which, for some reason, which posts are available to comment on or not were South Ogden and Tooele. I know that Councilman Pulver sent over a policy from Kaysville that could be something that could potentially be a guiding document that helps us understand how we could have a policy set. And I also noticed that Sandy City has a policy on their Facebook page that we could potentially refer to as well. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Councilmember Dalpaz. Council, any other comments? Any Councilmember Pulver.
Yeah, and like JD, Councilman Delpaz said, did some, what do you call it? Rabbit holes, I guess, for social media. And I think everybody keeps talking about Facebook, but I know Ms. Kilborn and I have been looking at the whole enchilada, so to speak. Facebook is one part of it, but I know this is going to maybe annoy some people. Facebook is not something the cool kids play with anymore. Just saying. I'll say that right out loud, and I'll be one of those. So the other thing is we have to talk about Instagram. We have to talk about X, and we have to talk about, I mean, the amount of people that are on Discord, you know, something I don't know if anybody, maybe the kids do, but other than that, there's no adults, I think, in this room that even know what Discord is. So if social media is a very bright and changing thing, and I agree that it's something that we have to, the city needs to be involved in. I guess the one big thing is monitoring, and I think can't remember, was it Katie? Somebody said that it takes a lot to monitor 24/7. We talked about the Kaysville basically policy. They have their Facebook page and it says, this is our policy, and it sends you to a PDF, and it's pretty specific. We don't monitor this page. So if you want to make a comment, we're not going to answer it, or we may or may not answer it. So I guess the point is that if we're doing something like this, that, oh, you know, that we comment on the Facebook, or a citizen comments on it, that they should have the, I don't know what you want us to call it, but an expectation that it gets responded to, right? I mean, but if nobody's monitoring it, or it's not something that gets responded to in a reasonable amount of time, why do we have comments anyway? So I think, and there's also a little side note on the Facebook pages themselves, is that I noticed that there's two major, not affiliated North Ogden group pages that I think get more comments than anything else combined. So, and that's basically a copy paste from the North Ogden page. So I guess the question it comes down to is what is the city willing to, for lack of a better term, pay for to monitor the Facebook page if we leave the comments on or turn them back on at this point? What do we do about trolls? Because that's going to be the thing. Then we have to somehow figure out, you know, weighing the First Amendment right versus what the city's burden of proof. Obviously, some things are easy. When it comes to profanity and other things, you know, I think that Kaysville thing had it pretty much delineated exactly what, you know, social security number, stuff like that, obviously. But so really, you know, when it comes right down to it, is social media a tool? How do we want to make that tool? Is it a dissemination tool for information to a broader audience? I would bear to say that I think most people don't even know what our webpage looks like. So, so I don't necessarily agree or disagree, but in this case, I do think that does the city and all of its employees have to accept the good, bad, and the ugly? You know, and that's the thing we're wrestling with currently, is to keep comments open, which, you know, obviously we'll vote on that, but I think I think not obvious, but I think that we should vote on it. But it's something that if we do, then we need to make very specific expectations to the public that either we hire somebody to monitor it and answer comments on a quick turn, because if we have comments and nobody's answering, what's the point? Or are we saying we're not going to, you know, the same thing that Kaysville says, well, if you make a comment, we may or may not answer it in a reasonable amount of time. So I think that's kind of the thing we need to decide, those two things. But anyway, sorry, it took too long.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Any other comments? Councilmember Severing.
So I've been kind of curious about this, and I'm as much a fan of all of our rights as anybody else. I was kind of curious. I did some research from Facebook, and Facebook says, yes, you can create a Facebook page for organization announcements and disable comments on posts. Facebook pages are designed for businesses and organizations, not just personal profiles. You can create a page, disable comments on individual posts, and manage other aspects like ads, permissions, and notifications. So I kind of look at the my perspective of the North Ogden City, One North Ogden page is strictly, in my opinion, an opportunity to get out the word of activities and events, not necessarily an opportunity for everybody to express an opinion about that event. And I noticed on some of the comments that somebody had said something to the effect, well, it has a tendency, the event getting advertised has a tendency to kind of dilute as people comment. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid. We want everybody to understand the event, the time, the location, et cetera, and not really have an option for comments. I think we do that with our flash vote. I think Citizen Swanson made a great comment. If we want somewhere else for citizens to comment, that's fine too. There's other pages that are ran by individuals in the city where they can comment about North Ogden things. But in my mind, I look at the North Ogden page as a dissemination opportunity.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Councilmember Watson.
This is a tough one. I've gone back and forth. I certainly don't want to see employees have that negative effect, and they didn't sign up for this, as has been brought up. I would hate for them to feel like they can't turn to our page and they're avoiding it. I myself have kind of pulled back from social media. Being a council member, it's hard to not stir the pot and encourage the disagreements. And so myself personally, I just back away a little bit. But in the end, I do feel like what we want from our city social media is for people to turn there, and we want people to know they can go to the source and find the facts from the factual source. And if we turn off comments, I'm afraid that we will turn away people and send them to other sources and lose the interest and lose the traffic. And so because of that, I feel like maybe it's worth, I really like the idea. Councilman Dalpass said that South Ogden has some posts have the comments turned off for certain posts. So if it's something that, has potential for misinformation, or maybe we look into that. I also feel like no matter which way we go, maybe we look at the option of every single post has, a line at the bottom of the post, not just a statement on our bio, but a line at the end of the post that says, please reply to this email with any of your feedback. Or on the flip side, we have a line that says, please keep your comments respectful, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Just keep it open-ended, something like that. I'm not a professional here. I'm not the HR person, but I just think if we can have some encouragement and some direction, given there's some guidance given there. So I would support having the comments turned on.
Councilmember Barker, did you have a comment?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say that I found out that I'm one of the cool kids now because I'm not on Facebook. I learned that tonight. Yeah. Actually, I'm not on social media much at all, but my thoughts, if we're using this, and what I've recognized is we use the Facebook page to disseminate information. We're not replying to comments. Even when comments were on, we weren't replying to comments. So what is the point of comments being turned on? And again, to say, when we have our HR director saying this is best for our city and our employees, are we not going to trust our experts? If they're saying they want this, that's why I'm supporting, turn them off. There's multiple, like you mentioned, there's multiple sites in North Ogden that have Facebook comments, and these sites are information is getting shared to those sites, and then there's multiple comments. So if there's multiple avenues to give comments out, why not trust our experts and leave them off on our city page?
Okay, thank you. Any further comments?
I got one more. I just thought of.
Councilmember Barker, go
And
ahead.
unfortunately, with my position at my work, we make a lot of policy, and it's usually based on somebody's face. There's a reason why policies are made, and it's somebody's face is always attached to it because somebody did something wrong to screw it up for everyone else. So to say that our city doesn't care, somebody did something, I don't know what it was because I don't get on Facebook, but they screwed it up for everyone else. So why don't we go and figure out why that person screwed it up for everyone else and not blame the city?
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Dalpez.
Yeah, just a couple more thoughts. I mean, there's thousands of residents that have access to city Facebook pages everywhere. Yes, we respect staff's opinions. We respect the ideas that they bring. But my personal opinion is that the Facebook page, it's far more to be perceived that the mayor and council are in support of what's on that Facebook page and not that it's what staff decides to choose. I know that staff is the one that's creating all the content and putting all the information out there, but I just don't believe that people are going to think that, oh, okay, well, it's staff that decided to close down comments, so we're going to be okay with that. We're going to accept that. And then if comments are disabled, like I said previously, I purposely go to the page and look at comments to know what people are thinking. And if I don't have the ability to do that, I lose out on a really big opportunity to see how people feel. And so I really worry about it. I mean, we have dozens, if not hundreds of entities in Utah that currently allow commenting in one form or fashion. So anyways, I'd be willing to make a motion if you'd like.
Councilmember Pulver, let's hear from you.
But I think what you're talking about answering comments, I think a lot of them are the other pages. I can probably count on one hand how many times one of us has actually commented on the city page. So I think that's, I mean, and if you look at it, there's like big four things. And if you look at other city pages, they don't even talk about stuff like that. So I think it's a little, we need to walk the line there because to be honest, there's, if there's controversial things, they go everywhere. And it's not just the city page that gets commented on. And I guess my point is that we're not relying on the city page to get our information.
Yeah.
I guess. Anyway, sorry.
One reason I dislike relying on those separate groups and pages to do the comments. Case in point, we had I can't remember if it was one of the community or unapologetic page. There's all these pages that are created in the city to keep up to date on things. Well, there was a post that was put up to say, hey, the city is now not allowing comments on the One North Ogden page. And so people started going left and right on comments. It was going crazy. And then the moderator of that page was like, hey, this is too much. I'm shutting it down, deleted the post. So then nobody had the ability to express their opinion in a social media sphere to say this is how we feel about it. So everyone was essentially shut down because it was given to an outside group to allow them to comment. And I understand that one page versus another, they can have their own policies to say, we allow comments, we don't allow comments, we allow to be political, we disallow to be political. But I'm just saying in this very specific example, people were shut down on one of those other pages. So they're shut down on the One North Ogden page and they're shut down on one of the other pages. Yeah, another page that may not have as much of a following or something like that might pick it up and get one view or a couple views or a few views. Anyways, just thoughts.
Councilmember Watson?
I was curious if John could explain, just so the public's aware, that we are not allowed to block certain things or what we are specifically allowed to block.
So Sandy actually did a good thing where it was obscene things. My opinion is not every swear word's obscene. And there are lots of cities that block swear words, and I think it's illegal too. And so and I apologize for the language, but the comment that we closed down that said this employee is horse shit would probably have to stay.
Besides swear words, is there anything else we can block?
Threats
Okay.
and promotion of illegal activities, incitement of violence, stuff like that.
It was actually on that Kaysville thing that they basically said exactly what can and cannot be put on.
Yeah.
Just wanted that to be brought forward to the public. Thank you. It's not, I think some people believe that we can just say, oh, has a harassment comment and we can just take that off, and we can't. So I just wanted that to be made aware, but
Mr. Call, I think you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Councilmember Barker and then to Councilmember Severing.
Just as a quick thought, based on Councilman Dalpaz's comments, it sounds like there may be some concern with the way staff manages Facebook. If we want to turn it over to council, we can do that.
I don't know where you got that from. I'm just saying that I think there's a perception in the public, like it or not, that what's put on the Facebook page is supported by the mayor and the council. So I'm just saying that the decision was made by staff to shut it down. It wasn't brought before the mayor or the council when that decision was made. And so there's just automatically a perception that somehow behind the scenes, either the mayor or one of the council members was a part of that decision, and they were not. So that's my frustration, is that it can appear that way. I'm not worried about what people, I don't know. I don't think we need to manage the page above and beyond from here. We haven't had problems until now. We can watch it and we can address the problems as they arise. I think we might have opened up a can of worms, because now if it gets turned back on, I think people are going to be ready to go at it, because they're going to be ticked off that it was turned off. So anyways.
I think John has a good point. As I recall, the clearance of items on Facebook goes through John.
Well, Kate,
I think there's a good point there. If the council is concerned that this is information coming from them and they approve it, there probably should be somebody on council that approves what goes out there, because we authorize John to clear information that goes on Facebook. But if the council feels like the public feels that's their view, you see on TV, this isn't the view of the station, something like that. But whatever you decide, I do believe there ought to be a policy similar to what's been quoted this evening. So, Councilmember Watson?
could our policy be mixed, that some posts have comments allowed and some don't? Is that an option?
I think
I
that's
don't think that's
dangerous.
allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's where you get into trouble. I think it's safer to do an all or nothing. So
Okay.
let's see, were we going to you next, Councilmember Barker, and then to Councilmember Severing?
So this is, and I haven't talked with our HR director, but in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, if we allow comments and it's because we don't want, and then we're worried about our employees, we're going to have less posts on Facebook. Instead of putting out posts about what our employees are doing and the improvements we're making in our city, it'll be less about what our employees are doing. And it'll be, here's our council agenda. Here's what's happening today. That's about it. It'll no longer be, let's promote our city, because if you don't want to have any comments about our employees, but we're going to allow comments, we just won't advertise what we're doing.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Severing?
Well, I think Councilman Dalpas kind of pointed out what my biggest concern is we've got so many other pages that if we can keep the Facebook, if we can keep the city's Facebook clean with announcements that are approved, then everybody can begin to trust that Facebook page. That's kind of my perspective.
Okay.
It's just a safe place to place an announcement, an event, and it's not being dragged through any kind of minutia.
Okay. Councilmember Pulver?
Okay, crazy idea. Since we're all kind of going a little bit crazy anyways, Susan Kilborn, she volunteered. Why, just because she's not at city staff, but she's on Facebook, I don't know if I can dare say constantly, but if that's something that we can have a citizen, we already have moderators of other websites. She wouldn't be a quote moderator, but she could be somebody that watches it. And I don't know if that's even something that she would take on. And anyway, but and then we have the policy from the Kaysville. I'm not one. I honestly, my first coming in here was just leave him off and he'll be fine. But if we have the Kaysville kind of thing on there that says, hey, we're not going to answer comments unless we feel like it. And here's the things that we removed instantaneously. And you have Susan watching it. I don't know. Just a thought.
John, maybe you could opine on that. I'm not sure we've got the clear message here of picking and choosing.
The problem is Kaysville says we're going to delete vulgar things and
The stuff on by law.
yeah, so
then
so
somebody has to make a
John's saying that
decision
by law
whatsoever.
we shouldn't, but Kaysville City has a thing that says you can't swear on here. Maybe they know that and maybe they're just trying to get people to act civilly. And so they're saying, here's the policy, don't swear, trying to dissuade people. But they probably know behind the scenes that they can't delete it.
To have someone determine what to delete and not delete outside the city. I mean, I appreciate Susan's.
Monitoring, not necessarily
Yeah. What does monitoring mean?
flagging it for Katie to look at.
I mean, doing that would be great. If someone emailed Katie Shot or me or someone a message and just said, hey, there's a comment that seems to cross that line, then we can evaluate it. But I think you're right. We couldn't have someone who isn't insured by or carrier making a decision on which comments stay and go.
Councilmember Seven, do you have another comment before?
Well, I
we
was
take a
just going
vote?
to say, I think pulling somebody in from the city adds a dimension we don't want to bring in. I think if it's coming from the city, comes from the staff person who knows all about the events, and it's clean and clear.
Okay, is there any other comments? It's been suggested that we do take a roll call vote on whatever motion is made. So Councilmember Dalpaz, I think you indicated you'd like to make a motion earlier.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I motion that we approve comments to be turned on the One North Ogden Facebook page and that we work with staff on developing a policy within 1 month and we can refer to other cities for a policy.
Could I just ask if that motion includes the desire to respond to comments?
My motion will include that there is no expectation that responses will be made on the One North Ogden page. Each individual city council member, mayor, staff member, they have the right to decide if they want to reply to those posts or not. This policy includes Instagram and X as well.
Social media. Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dalpaz. Do we have a second to his motion, which would be to turn comments on? Do we have a
Second.
motion? Have a motion by Councilmember Watson.
Second.
That's second.
Second, excuse me. Do we have any further comments?
So would you turn them on and then do the policy or do the policy and then turn them on?
I think you'd have a policy.
You had it opposite, but. that's
Yeah.
what
If me reversing my what I said would change decisions in your vote, then maybe I would change it, but I feel like the Facebook comments need to be turned on effective immediately. It's how strongly I feel about it. Knowing that we're going to work on a policy and we'll have something back before council within a month.
Okay, we have a motion is to regurgitate that, a motion to immediately turn on comments with a policy to be developed later and approved by the council. Do you still second that motion, Councilmember
Yes.
Watson? So I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, is that,
Member Severing?
yes, thanks, Mayor. I was just curious if John is that really something that would be beneficial? Can we create a policy where we don't take away rights?
The amount of comments that would be eliminated would be so few and far between, it would be pretty easy to manage.
So we can manage it.
Yeah, because the assumption would be that everything is allowed that isn't obscene, inciting violence, promoting illegal activities.
all the
Yeah, what's the last?
social security numbers,
Yeah, I mean,
there was
so
spam malware.
that there would be a lot of, there would be a lot of stuff that wouldn't rise to that level, or there could be, I should say.
Because in the Kaysville one, it did say defamatory material, including libel and slander, which I thought was interesting because that
And that's an interesting thing because the reality is, so I would say that our frontline employees would fall under that category, but department heads and city council members, you could call public officials, and they would not have the same protections for libel and slander. So someone can get on there and say, you know, John called, sacrifices chickens in his backyard, and there's nothing we could do about it.
So do you feel, can I ask you a pretty pointed question as the city attorney? Are we going somewhere we shouldn't go with this policy idea, or what is your
The
recommendation?
no comments policy is easier to manage.
Okay.
So it's just an ease of management thing.
John, who's the administrator? Who can post on our outgoing posts on social media?
Katie can post, I can post, and then Crystal can post on the main One North Ogden page.
And there's also Nextdoor app too, just another one that.
Yeah, and we do have X and Instagram. All of our Facebook goes on Instagram as well right now.
Yeah,
So
I think it was the motion included social media.
yeah.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll start the vote with you, Councilmember Severing.
No.
We have a no vote from Councilmember Severing to turn on comments. Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
No.
Councilmember Pulver,
No.
Councilmember Dalpass.
Yes.
Motion fails on a 3-2 vote by the council not to turn on comments, so.
Can I make another motion?
John shaking his head, yes, so you can make another motion.
I motion that we come up with a policy to address this issue so that we can turn on the comments. And then we approve that by council and then turn them back on.
I second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to develop a policy and then let the council revote on the take based upon the policy. I'm not sure we need a motion on that, John. That could just be a directive, right, to develop a policy, or would you?
Well, that would
prefer
help
vote?
know if we should spend the time building the policy. If the council does want that, then we
Okay,
would know the
then-
outcome.
Let's take a vote on that motion. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Councilmember Barker.
My only concern with this one is we've been told our staffing hours is a problem. So if we're gonna have a social media policy, maybe we need to put in a social media position in our city. I
Okay,
mean,
that surely could be discussed by the council as part of the budget or a budget amendment, so. Gotcha.
I don't believe that we need an additional person to manage social media. We've had it as it is all this time around. John has already mentioned that the comments that will be deleted are few and far between, so.
And I would think, based upon your comment previous, Councilmember Dalpaz, that decision, since I know there's a concern that the Facebook page is basically approved by the council, that the council appoint someone to make that final decision instead of leaving that on the staff, since it's perceived that this is a council member thing. So maybe the policy should include who approves the deletion and what goes out. So, okay, John's asked for a vote on that to see if we'd like to pursue a policy with the intention of developing a policy that would allow for comments to be subsequently received. Let's start with you, Councilmember Severing. Would you like to see that policy turn them back on?
I'm just going to preface my vote by saying I trust that the city attorney takes into account all the considerations that I don't see. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to develop a policy. It would be interesting to talk to some of these other cities and see what they're experiencing, but at this point, I would have to say no.
Okay. Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
I agree with what Councilmember Severing said, and I'm still a no.
okay? Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpass.
Yes.
Okay, John, if you would work diligently on getting a policy put together for the council to consider.
And I'd be willing to help.
We have a volunteer there, so.
Perfect.
Okay,
I love
thank-
the idea of having a citizen be a flagger too. I think that's a great way to save on costs.
Being a
Yep.
what?
Someone who would flag And email John or Katie.
Doesn't have access to the account, but she can notify us if there's any problems that she sees.
Okay, that could be part of the policy. All right, thank you, Council, for that discussion. We'll move on to item number 7 now. I think John Call's going to lead this discussion. And this is a discussion to approve the revocable grading permit for rock crusher at Northview Estates, I believe phase 10, John?
That's correct, Mayor. So council, this is essentially the first grading permit that you approved was in phase 9. And phase 10 is just up the hill. But our policy on this is that the council approves all of these. And so the idea would be that essentially that would just be moving up the hill, another grading operation. Because of Crystal and her diligence, any issues that have come up have been minor and caught quick, handled quickly. And staff would recommend we go ahead and issue this new permit for the new phase. We do have Cecil Satterthwaite here who can answer questions, but it seems to be doing good. It's also helping our roads quite a bit. We're not having as many vehicles come up and down, construction vehicles, and so it seems to be working really well for everybody.
I think the key here is we haven't had negative comments back from residents in the area. Do you have any questions before we proceed with the motion? Okay, I would look then for a motion to approve the revocable grading permit for the rock crusher at the Northview Estates Phase 10. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilmember Watson. Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Any further discussion?
Just
Councilmember
one question.
Pulver?
Everything is the same from the previous agreement, right?
It'd be the same
It's the-
machine,
yeah.
same amount, same time frame.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
And
thank you.
and I'll just say we've had a good experience with it so far from what we know. I just wanted to mention that we had residents that showed up the first time for phase 9. There was about 5 to 10 people. They expressed some concerns, and I don't believe that we've had any complaints. So I feel good about this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Also, our city recorders asked for a roll call vote on this issue. So we'll start with you, Councilmember Severing,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Dowpad.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Move on now to item number 8, which is a discussion or action to consider an ordinance for 2025-06 approving the fiscal year 2025-2026 tentative budget. And John, just to clarify, I know there were some questions, but in earlier discussion, you indicated that this should be a balanced budget, even though it's tentative. Is that correct?
Yeah, because it can technically be the operating budget through August, we do balance it to just make sure. And as I was going to identify, the third line on the staff report shows how we're balancing it, which is the use of fund balance. I would anticipate that prior to the budget being adopted in June or through the truth and taxation process, that number would change from the $132,000 that's indicated in the budget currently. And so that's the plan, is it's budgeted right now through that method, the use of essentially what we call our rainy day funds to make it work.
John, I believe you wanted to lead this discussion, and you have put in the packet information of changes from the original budget discussion. Perhaps you could lead us through that.
Yeah, of course. So the first major changes in our revenue section. First one being that this, as shown, it shows a $3 million increase in property tax revenues. That, just so we're clear, is part of the conversation around the transportation infrastructure needs and the transportation utility fee. And so that's something that I would need some help with tonight, or in getting the budget adopted, would be, are we heading in that direction, or are we heading in the transportation utility fee direction, and to what amount? So Mayor and I were talking earlier, and we're getting some information from our streets crew on how many dollars they think they can do of road improvements. And if, for example, they could only do $3 million worth of road work in a year, we wouldn't actually need to increase property tax or the transportation utility fee by $3 million, because we have just over $1 million in our current transportation utility fee fund balance, just about $850 to $1 million of B&C road fund and other capital expenditures that we had planned. And then there would just be an increase of, call it $1 million through property tax or the transportation utility fee. As was identified by Councilmember Pulver in his email, both of them are showing up here. So I'm showing on the screen this line and this line. Only one will survive. It's like Highlander, right? The idea being that this line is implementing a transportation utility fee, and this line is doing it through property tax. There were some other increases in revenue, an additional $12,600 for our school resource officer program that Weber School District pays us. That is part of the contract that they've established to increase the amounts they give us each year to where they're covering the amount of time that the officers or that our officers actually there. This balance to be appropriated is what we talked about. It's technically an expenditure out of the rainy day fund, but it shows up as a revenue in the budget. One thing that's new since we talked last time, our insurance cost increased over $100,000. A good majority of that was in workers' compensation insurance. That line itself almost doubled, moving up to about $110,000. And that's because we've had quite a few injuries and some expensive injuries to employees. And obviously we can't talk about the specifics because we're talking about people's health. But other than to say, these are claims from work and don't have anything to do with anything that's been in the news, just in case people are wondering. I feel like we can safely say that. With the increase in property tax, this $3 million is the transfer from property tax for roads. But this line, this GL is where we typically see that $300,000 transfer, which we currently don't have. So it went from 0 to 3 million, not from 300 to 330 or 3.3. I took out the Cherry Days revenue because we aren't selling tickets to events. We do, in looking at it, we will change that number and add it back in as we get to the final budget, because we do have vendor fees and some stuff that will create some money, but not the amount that we have in the past. We had already taken out a lot of the expenses. So that's why you don't see a change here, as we had already taken out the $100,000+ of expenses to make the Cherry Days fund balance budget. This is that tough area. The miscellaneous grants, this is money coming in from Weber County Coalition of Governments to help purchase the Mountain Road corridor area. That's, as it goes, the Mountain Road goes along the east side, it goes up and turns into Skyline Drive when it hits Pleasant View. And this will help buy the right of way. With this and some of the conversations we've had with some of the landowners, Eric, Scott, and I have been working with the landowners, and we have nothing in writing yet, but at least 2 landowners that have said if we will buy the ground, they will put the road in. So that will save us and future, you could argue future them money, but usually the city would cover the middle, a good chunk of that construction. And so this will save some dollars in the future for the city. There is that $3 million pops up again because it gets transferred from property tax. Now let's see. Oh, sorry. This is showing the receipt of the money in the capital improvement fund. So this 3 million is now showing up in the capital improvement fund as a revenue. This is extending the money from the RDA into our capital improvement fund to help cover the playground that would not have made it in time for the season, and so we had to delay it, and it will be here in the fall. Or that's the current plan, is for it to be installed in the fall. And that's tied to this aquatic feature thing, this aquatic feature expense. We've eliminated the McGriff Park bathroom redo to talk about it next year. The logic for that was that if we're not putting in $300,000 from the general fund, then we should maybe not expend as many items. And so this was taken out as a project. This is now the expense line. So that $3 million is now in here 4 times because of the way it moves through. But this is where it would actually be expended as out of this GL, but it's the same $3 million. In the fund, this 13.28 is the expense of this 1.2 from WACOG, plus our match of the $120,000 for the Mountain Road change. And then the last item in the table was a Cassell error that I caused. I ended up rounding up this line item to 1.5 million. And so this was the correction to get it back down to the actual amount that the RDA board had approved for the expenses for the RDA grant, general project grants. Those are the changes. It doesn't mean that that's everything the council might want to talk about, but I would just say the biggest thing that I think we need is the conversation about how much for roads and whether it's property tax or transportation utility fee that the council's leaning to. I did talk to the group that would want to be one of the people who could help us with putting the transportation utility fee study together. They have said that they would do it for $7,500. They have not done one before. I think it's safe to argue that no one in Utah has done it before, and their thought was that they would like to partner with us, put one together, use some of the expertise that Dave has and that I have with impact fees to kind of hold themselves out as experts in the field and then get more work in the future from other cities. So it would still, if we went the transportation utility fee, it would cost us money. Currently, this group says they would do it for $7,500, which is less than the 15 we told you last time. So, and then it's just questions, and I've got my budget here. I can make notes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Call. Appreciate that. What questions do you have? Maybe to give you some additional information, I did have a conversation with John, and after our meeting last week, challenged John to do further research to see literally how much work could actually be done in the city, and how much would actually be needed to stop us from falling off the cliff, so to speak, where roads get so bad that we're just deferring and spending more money later. And I think between the transportation utility fee fund balance that John referenced of $1 million and the Class B and C road funds, in total, I think it was about $3.2 million of work that could be done. So that would be looking at a transportation utility fee of about $1.2 million in regards to either what the council decides in the property tax or transportation utility fee. I'll just express my opinion, and this isn't a surprise to John or I think any of staff. I think this is a dangerous budget. I think we're getting into the deferral method, again, of just deferring things. How are we going to pay for it next year? Where's the $300,000 going to come from? Or are we just wiping that out totally from our financial plan? We're relying on interest income to continue to fund normal operations, and using fund balance outside of a critical situation, I don't think is good financial practice, but that's surely your call. So I just wanted you to have that information on the transportation utility fee when you make a decision on what to do there. So at this point in time, then we'll entertain any questions that you may have for Mr. Call. I think he's outlined the significant changes. I know you had a question on the sidewalk program, I think, Councilmember Pulver. So
Yeah, I never found it in the CI, the capital projects.
It's lumped into the road stuff right now. And so we can create a GL and indicate that out, or we could move it back into the street line. It's a little weird. So normally our sidewalk repair is like, hey, we're gonna replace these three panels, and we don't typically capitalize it because it's 3 panels out of 100 on a street. And so if we were doing this program where or if we continue the program where we go out and we do all these ramps and do all these things, then we probably should be capitalizing it, which means it probably should come out of capital. But I haven't talked to the accountant, our consulting accountants on that question yet. So we can put it wherever the council would like for this budget, and then I can make sure that the accountants have an answer before we adopt the final one.
Councilmember Dowpass?
Okay, am I following it right that this $3 million number that's on the top line is a little more shocking than it needs to be because we have the BNC road funds and we have whatever the other amount was that you had mentioned? Is the 3 million, the 3 million isn't really it's not completely accurate in the sense that we have BNC road funds and the other line item that you mentioned that's going to make up some of the difference.
It was presented in the budget. It was an incremental increase in property taxes. So it was, in essence, to your point, it would have been 5 million available for
Okay.
road repairs. So the 3 million that John referenced was an incremental increase in property tax, which would be basically 100% increase, right?
Yeah, and I think the recommendation is that it should be that $1 million that you just referenced. Because when I put this together, I was thinking $5 million total spend on roads. And the reality is we can probably do 3.
Yeah,
So-
I think it was 1.2 million would be the requested discussion on property tax or transportation utility fee.
What does that come out to be monthly? Or
Probably
annually?
what, $13 or $14,
Oh,
if you
well,
base
that's
it
a
on
lot
6.
different than-
Of course, I think the plan would be to charge commercial more, but if you're just looking at 1.2 million,
Okay.
and just say we have 6,950 maybe. That comes out to about $14 a month. Now, one of the things we did talk about, and I mentioned this to Dave earlier, I would like to see the opportunity under certain circumstances for those on fixed incomes, et cetera, to get a waiver of the fee. Similar to what happens with property tax, because I think the burden that may be being placed on those who can least afford it may be pretty substantial. So under that case, if we said, there's maybe 500 that it would qualify for that, it'd probably make it closer to $15 a month. Yes, Councilmember Watson.
As I previously mentioned to the mayor and the council, I have an obligation that I need to leave for in a couple of minutes. So I just wanted to give my thoughts really quick before the discussion. At one point, the number was more like $35 a month, and 14 a month sounds a lot better to me than 35. And so I'm fine if it goes to property tax or the fee. Either way, I think 14 is manageable and more reasonable than 35. So thanks to all the work that's been done, and I'm sorry I have to leave early.
John?
One thing I forgot to mention, the council does have the option of implementing the fee and then going out to a go bond and then repealing the fee if the go bond passes, although it'd be a little awkward if the go bond doesn't pass and you leave the fee in place. But again, I think the mayor talked about last time, sometimes there's hard decisions that are made, right? If you did a property tax, you would have to wait until next year's truth and taxation to repeal it, as an example. And so the fee is a little more nimble and agile that the council can wiggle it up and down. The trouble is the fee is a lot more agile and you can wiggle it up and down without a public hearing and things like that. So there's those kind of things that the council has to balance in that. process.
However, I think this council would hold a public hearing in any event in the spirit of transparency um, to do that. John, have you reassessed the potential? I think there's two things that the council ought to assess. So what's the probability of getting a GO bond approved? And you spend all the costs to get there, and then I think it's fairly minimal. Now, maybe it's different for roads. I don't know.
It's
But-
33% is kind of the average pass rate. And most of those, it's the second time it's gone out.
And then what would be your assessment of potential lawsuit as being the first ones to implement under the new law?
If with the study, I think the study will show that we could charge more than what the council might ultimately select. And so that would help. If we were going to charge the max, we'd probably be the 60-75% likely to be the one that's picked off because we're a big enough city that we're impactful, but small enough that we don't have the resources. And then if we did less than it, like this
Yeah,
$13, $14 range.
But I'm a realist. And remember, the reason it's cut back from 3 million to 1 million is because of the fund balance in the transportation utility, which won't be there. So you're looking at easily doubling it the following year. And then depending on B and C road funds, I mean, so you may start out at $15, but that's not going to sustain you through the identified need.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if they can subsequently, if they have to do it right up front, but the fact is $15, it's that low because you have other funds that will be spent, not subsequently available
Yeah. And in theory, any person who pays the fee could sue the city
at any time.
at any time. And every month they get a new chance to sue the city. So.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns you have on the budget?
Out of curiosity, sorry, I feel like this is sidetrack, but the Mountain View corridor preservation, from approximately what area to what area does that cover?
So let me pull up a map because that might be the easiest way to show it. And that's a great question, Councilmember Dalpaz. The area that the corridor preservation funds are approved for would be connecting down by the green waste pit up here to get to 3100 or the divide road, depending on what you call it, from where Mountain Road ends here up to the cove, and then from the end of the cove all the way to Pleasant View. The caveat being that the estimate to do all of that is about 3.6 million. They have only approved the 1.2 and asked us to apply for a little bit more each year. Because if we took the full 3.6, we would have taken out all of their corridor preservation funds for 1 year. So their recommendation was do it in phases, and the engineers have identified the area we'll most likely be focusing on is this area from the cove down to Mountain Road, because that provides another access off the mountain, where the other areas don't have as critical of a need for access and issues like that. Plus, some of the owners in this area are the ones that are willing to put the roads in and do some of the front end work that would reduce our costs in the future.
Thank you.
Then there's no guarantee that we would continue to get right-of-way funds. It's a competitive situation.
Yeah.
Is there any grants or federal funds or any other thing that, John, we could apply for it or? Because, we're one of the few cities that's actually putting up 10% out of our pocket these days.
So this WACOG money technically comes from the state and has all the federal strings attached to it, as far as we have to follow the federal takings process. Well, actually, in this one, it's not officially a taking because you can't use eminent domain unless the project's going in with this money. But we have not explored additional funds for corridor preservation, but there is money out there for construction, but none of those are ready yet. in fact of this, many of you remember the widening of 400 East. A large part of that was technically federal dollars that we then traded into state dollars um, to make the process a little easier. But that's where most of it would be from, would be the.
John, I'm just talking about additional money, having served on the Transportation Committee at WACOG. There's a lot of cities that are meeting their funding by getting grants from the feds to replace the 10% out of pocket.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering if there's, other funds that are available to supplement what we get from WACOG.
It sounds like there is, based on your experience. Do you know what programs they're using?
I don't.
Do you know which cities so I can reach out to them?
I think there's been several cities. I think West Haven gets them. I think Harrisville's got some. I don't know if that's for new,
There's those with the federal
on there.
appropriation grant.
Yeah, that's my point. Are we
Through the
eligible for
congressman's
those?
office.
But yeah,
So that sounds like that's the money we've applied for on the pond relocation. It's that same program. So,
I think it might be a separate one, but
well, sorry. So with the NRCS grant, I probably haven't told the council, but we've also applied for an appropriation through Senator Moore's office.
you just promoted him.
Or, yeah, Representative Moore, sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, thank you. What other questions do you have on the budget, Council Member Pulver?
So, going back to the big elephant thing, so property tax versus fee, I think we're still working on that, right? The two things that I saw, one, do we need it up front? I guess is the question, because property tax, you get it up front, fee, you'd be getting it through the whole year, correct? So I guess the question isn't, I don't know if there's an answer, is do we need it up front or do we need it throughout the year?
All of these projects would likely start next spring. And
Okay.
so we'd be close enough that we could, as an example, float the last 3 months if we went the fee route as opposed to the property tax route.
Okay, but that still doesn't answer, I guess, I think we need to still do some kind of a debrief on the road situation, because, there's a, $90 million dagger sitting up there that we're deferring, sort of, but because we don't have the answer. So
So is your question, do we need the full
No.
$20 million up front?
no, just we decided on 3 million was what we can spend. And part of it is from the normal stuff, and we're going to use $1 million in new askings, I guess. And
So
if we, go ahead.
Yeah, the property tax would show up in January. And by the time we would start spending, which would probably be late March, early April, we would have collected, call it 700,000 through the utility fee, and we could float the other 300. So I don't think we need it up front, because we could float that 300 in fund balance until it came in.
So really the only difference is the 7,500 it comes down to, really.
Yeah.
Okay. And being sued.
I was proud John didn't say your chances are 50-50. That's the common answer from an attorney.
When you go to the courtroom, it's 50-50,
Mhm.
right?
So, and I guess the other thing is the two things I think that we were definitely kicking down the road. I think the mayor picked up the one is the contribution to the capital projects, not doing 300 this year. And then also, basically kicking the can down on the road on the pool as well. The, not saving any future, repair money to valves or anything else, that we guesstimated 300, but so those are two issues that we're not really talking about, I guess.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I forgot to mention that the recommendation that I got from the group last week, I believe, was to go to 950 for the gate entry at the aquatic center. And Justin just wanted to confirm that since we won't pass the fee schedule till the 27th of May, just because it'll impact how they build their point of sale system before they open. So it'd be nice to know if the council still felt like 950 was the right, unless unless you
Thumbs
wanted
up.
to go higher.
I think that that's where we landed.
Yeah.
We know it's not enough to pay for it all, but it's, per the conversation that I remember last week, was it's still a gradual step to get it to where it needs to be without completely shocking people that show up at the gate.
For those who remain on the council, just understand the decision you'll be faced with next year is where do you get the 300,000 from to start reestablishing the capital projects fund? How do you continue the sidewalk project? And further increase in the transportation utility fee. And if interest rates start declining on top of that. So those are just the things that you need to consider.
Was mine a 2-year or 4-year term? I was just
10, it's a 10-year term.
Okay, so I got to figure this out next year. So I guess those were the big two things I was, kind of poking at, and the fact that I know there's a lot of ins and outs, and the motor pool always throws me through a loop, and we went back and forth on that for a little bit, but I think there's a lot of the budget committee did a lot of stuff, and I think some of them we took into heart, and I think some of the other minor things at this point, I think we're just fee structure, stuff like that. I know we're going to work on it, but to kind of expand the fee structure when it comes to either business licenses or just other stuff in general. I know the pool guy or Justin was talking about different things for the pool, et cetera. And I know I'm sort of excited from an engineering geeky point of view, is to understand how efficient some of that stuff's going to be for the pool, to see how much cost savings that will be electricity wise. But because if they cut that down, that's going to be a kind of a big, huge expense. But of course, then chemicals go up and that deletes that. But anyway, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Councilmember Dalpas.
Mayor, you mentioned kicking the capital improvements approximately $300,000 down the road. Given such a large potential increase, would you still be a proponent of tacking on the 300,000 so we don't cause ourselves a problem in the future? I think what my biggest fear is, I think we're working diligently to take care of many issues that have kind of come up, have bubbled up to this point. And a new mayor and a new council will be voted on this year, and you never know what that's going to do. So, we have all these things that we have an expectation that we're going to get the roads taken care of. And if it's through a property tax, then they're going to have either the courage or the craziness to keep up the revenues that we're asking for. And so that's my biggest fear, is if we do a property tax increase this year through truth and taxation, it might just completely stall next year, depending on who we have on the council. It's just something that kind of
That's always a possibility.
floats around in my mind.
I hate to see us get into the deferral mode and cut off any contribution into the capital projects fund. I don't know what the answer is, but where's it going to come from next year? But you're right. A future council has the ability to go back to, I guess, the old way of just waiting until it's needed, then figuring it out. I think the council approved a good finance plan that was put in place, and I'm not saying it's an all or nothing, but I hate to see us start dipping into fund balance when it's not a critical emergency situation, and start getting into that mode, but that's surely your call.
I wonder if, as a matter of principle and trying to stay on track with capital improvements, we know we're way behind on the roads. Like, don't get after me on that. I know that. But we slightly shaved this $3 million number to $2.7 million add in the 300,000 to capital improve, or to the capital improvement project, so we don't stop what we're doing there. Because it feels like once you stop, you might be stopped for several years. You've gotten out of a habit of not doing it. So even though, yes, I understand we need every bit of money to start getting our roads up to snuff, but maybe cut $300,000 from that $3 million number, just to, as a matter of principle, to not get off of our savings mechanism that we have.
And I was going to ask John this, there's still, in my opinion, two numbers in the budget that are subject to, I guess, a whim. We won't see the next property tax number till a couple weeks from now. And, we don't really know what the growth number is. So revenues, I think Councilmember Pulver on a historical basis said, there's always some leftovers from expenses. You hope that's the case, but I think, if positions can be filled, the department heads have budgeted pretty close. We've got a lot better, I guess, in the budgeting process. But so on top of the, what was it, 134,000, John, out of fund balance?
Yeah, right there, 130.
Take or give a little bit. On top of that, it could be, who knows? There's so much uncertainty right now. Who knows? I think we'll probably see a little bit of bump in a month or something like that because people rush to make major purchases, but I guess we will see. But those are two unknowns that are on top of the amount coming out of fund balance.
So if, just talking out loud here, if we go with a fee route, the property tax goes to what number?
So if we go to the fee route, then the property tax would drop in theory back to that 3.1 that was projected, which was the 4% increase with the 75,000 in growth.
Okay.
Another million increase on top of that would be an additional approximately 33%. So you'd be talking about a 37% increase in property tax.
But what would the number be? You said it was.
So if you went to the fee route, then the number would be the 3.1.
Okay.
And if you went to the property tax route, it'd be 4.3.
Yeah.
Because my only thought on the fee thing is that you can waive easier than trying to figure out what you're trying to number you're picking out of the property tax for.
Yeah, as I've always said, you can call it whatever you want. It still comes out of the wallet, right? But your points are
True, yeah.
your points are well taken. It's easier to adjust. You do take some additional risk and cost doing that. And basically everybody pays it except those that are exempted by law.
True, but it's also, I'll say fair. It's even across everybody. Because if you do property tax route, it's based on your value of your whatever property you have. So I mean, you are smacking the crap out of the commercial industry because you're taxing them at 100%, and whatever that 100% is that's what it's going to be. And I don't know if anybody. I mean, I don't think we even asked the businesses if we did this 300 route and all of a sudden they had a 100% increase from a North Ogden property tax. Does that do anything? I mean, I would think that the answer would be yeah, but anyway, I just, to me, I'd rather figure out how we're going to do this as a whole, as opposed to just kind of scaring the crap out of people and with the property tax increase, and then coming back later and say, hey, guess what? It's going to be more. It needs to be well thought out and well planned out so that we're not just, seems like we're throwing darts at a board and hoping, we're hitting a number correctly.
And conversely, I would just point out that when you straight line that fee, and don't take this wrong, but oftentimes those who have higher property taxes because of the value of their home have the ability to pay. It's not always the case, but in this case, you're hitting everybody the same, whether they're making $100,000 or $10,000.
Correct. And if there's those that need or that have the ability to get the waiver, then you can do that. The city can do that with a point and click.
Yeah.
So,
That's true, true. But the council should probably set an intention to develop a policy on waivers. And that's one thing that Dave and myself talked about. Is there a way to provide a waiver for whatever those qualifications are from the council? So, I mean, either way, you're fine. The only difference is the 7,500 and the risk of engaging in a lawsuit. I guess if they engaged in a lawsuit, John, they could just take the fee and put it in property tax
Yeah.
and avoid major legal costs. I'm assuming they could do that. This lawsuit would be dismissed, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you could refund everything you collected and there wouldn't be any.
That's the problem, you have to
anything left.
refund
Yeah.
after you've spent the money.
So a year. So people would have a year to file their suit from when they paid their fee.
Okay, any other questions for John on the budget? Okay, I think the answer John is looking for is how do you want to go about the $1.2 million projected need for roads? Do you want to do that in a fee? Or do you want to do that in property tax? I guess you could incorporate that in your motion to approve the fiscal year 2025, 2026 budget. That could be inclusive there. But if somebody doesn't like the property tax and prefers the fee, they could surely vote against the whole thing. So what would you like to do, council?
So you want, Mayor, you want us to include in a motion the transportation utility fund for the $1.2 million or the property tax for $1.2 million? You want that to be?
I think John needs to know that.
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Before we make a motion, do we have to have public comments?
We do.
Right there.
Well, yeah. Regarding the fee or property tax, I see benefits. Well, there's not, I mean, there's benefits and risks to both. So
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm done.
I was just gonna say, I'm with you, Mayor. I hate to call something a fee when it's really a tax.
Mhm.
So in my perspective, I think we look at it as part of the property tax and not a fee, because it just sounds a little devious to me.
Okay. Well, let's have a public hearing. John, I believe we need a motion to.
To close. To open, you can just open
Okay.
it.
At this point in time, then we'll open up the public hearing to address the 2025, 2026 tentative budget. Anyone who would like to comment in our public hearing, please step up to the podium, give us your name and if you're a resident. John, if you would watch online for anybody who would like to comment. So if you'd like to comment now on the proposed budget, that would be the time.
I hope somebody else gets up tonight and chooses to speak. A little shocked at the $3 million initially. Glad that you've looked at reducing that number somewhat, although we're in a real pickle. We've got a lot that needs to be done and a lot that needs to be paid for. How we do that is probably one of the more difficult decisions that you've had to face as a council. I prefer a fee personally, simply because I don't know that councils in the future will have the willpower to keep those road funds under a property tax used exclusively for roads. We've seen the erosion already of the interest income that we've had recently in the last couple of years, last few years. It's been a nice benefit. It's been a nice cushion. But we see ourselves already becoming dependent on that rather short-term benefit for long-term budgeting. And I think we need to be cautious in doing that with the road fees. You can easily see future councils, depending on who gets elected, you can see future councils losing sight. I don't think they would intentionally do it, but just like the interest income, gradually losing sight of that, this isn't necessarily always going to be here. And we shouldn't depend on it for ongoing expenses. I see the same thing happening if we roll the road taxes into a property tax. I see that erosion happening fairly easily. We're human, stuff happens. I think there are other examples that we could bring up over the last number of years where similar erosion has happened. So we need to be cautious. For me, the fee keeps it clear and concise. If we get sued, we get sued. There's somebody out there looking to sue the city for something all the time and just waiting for that opportunity. Hopefully that won't happen, but I think it's worth the risk in my opinion. Thank you.
Kerry Wingsgard, North Ogden resident. I would recommend that you do the property tax route. Currently, I own several properties in North Ogden, and I can tell you when I compare my utility bills to what I'm paying in Ogden City, North Ogden is a lot higher than what I'm paying in Ogden City for rental units. I think our utility fees are at the top end right now. And even though you say it's only $15, adding another $15 to that building, particularly when you do it on a per unit basis, that gets to be quite a bit. I end up paying the utility bills as far as water and garbage for tenants anyway, so I'm going to end up paying that. It would be the same for property taxes. But to me, that road repair is a tax. It's going to take care of infrastructure, and therefore it's really not a fee. It's a tax. And whether you itemize or not, if you do itemize, then you're going to be able to take that tax deduction off of your income tax, where otherwise you would not, as far as a personal return, personal resident. It would be interesting to find out on that $3 million, how much that's going to increase the property tax per property. I mean, I'm not a proponent of increasing your property taxes. I would just soon see you maintain them where they are. But I also believe that if you're using roads, whether it's a sales tax or a local tax, how you tie it to gasoline, I don't know, but roads should be receiving funds that's generated from automobile usage, some way, somehow. Just putting it on as a utility tax to your utility bill, I don't think that's right. I mean, I've seen situations where, oh, we've got a surplus fund in the utility account, so let's take some of that money and move it over to another area to where we're running a deficit. And then you're using those funds to support another area. I say, if you've got too much money in the utility bill, then give me a refund. Give that money back to me. Don't just sit there and take that money and put it off to offset something else. There again, I'm not in favor of increasing property taxes, but if it comes down to we need the money to maintain the roads, I would rather have it come from a property tax than a utility fee increase.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to comment? John, anyone online?
Nobody online, Mayor.
Anyone else? Okay. I don't see anyone that would like to make comments, so I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. All in favor of closing the public hearing, starting the budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. So now, council, is there any further discussion based upon the comments that were made during, any questions on the comments that were made during the public hearing? All right, our city recorder has asked that we then consider passing ordinance 2025-06 that would approve the tentative budget for North Ogden City. John has outlined those changes that he has made to the previous budget discussion. So if you have any changes in those probably ought to be included in your motion or discussed at this point in time. Councilmember Dalpas?
Was anyone open to the idea of slightly reducing the road amount so we don't kick the can down the road on capital improvements? I just to know, I realize we're way behind on roads. I get it, but I just want to see if there was any interest in slightly shaving that 3 million down to 2.7 to keep the 300,000 for capital improvements.
And just to clarify, I think it's 3.2 million.
Okay. Well,
Just to
either way,
clarify, yeah, just so
either way, shave it down from 3.2 million to 2.9 million, just so we can keep the 300K in there for capital improvements.
Well, I think the one point John made is that they took out McGriff bathroom to counteract that. So technically, yeah, we're not putting 300 in, but we're not taking 350 out.
Yeah, but you will next year
We will next year.
without any
Well,
way
if
to put 300,000 in.
that's next year.
I mean,
Guess you
it
guys don't have
doesn't
to worry about it.
I guess it doesn't really matter because there are so many, my experience in this budgeting process is, I guarantee you, we're going to be back here in a month and there's going to be so many changes we're going to get another sales tax update. We're going to see, did the sales tax swing substantially higher than we expected? And so we have a sigh of relief. We will know the property tax finalization sooner than later. So we'll know what the net new growth of property taxes were. There's all these things. So I'm okay not having an answer on that, but we just need to think about how we want to do that.
I agree, yeah.
I think Councilmember Barker had his hand up
No, it's
first.
all right. I was gonna say, my only thought on that is it's basically, we're doing the same thing. If we take 300,000 from roads and put it in capital improvements, that means we're 300,000 short on roads now instead of, all we're doing is moving
Yeah,
money.
I know, it's
from pot to
frustrating.
pot. It is. So I don't really I don't see the benefit of one way or the other, because it's either, do you want to do a capital improvement this year or do you want to do road? It's one or the other.
Yeah, I think point was, do you get out of the habit of putting the money in?
Kind of the
there?
only
But,
reason, yeah. but-
Councilmember Severing, did you have a comment?
Yes, I just had, so in kind of the same spirit of what Councilman Dalpas said, knowing that there's going to be some additional information forthcoming before we finally approve a budget, if we have to include the $1.2 million towards road repair, if one of us says through the transportation utility fund, it doesn't mean we've obligated ourselves to that tonight, right?
You can, there's a final budget that would be approved, submitted to the state, and obviously we're going to truth and taxation. So that wouldn't be due till what, September, John? Final budget?
Yeah, it's due September 1st with your public hearings in August.
So we can, like I say, we can say that the transportation utility fund, but it could still end up being in property tax, right? Okay. that's
But
what I
it does seem like you wanted, what I was following is you kind of want an indication in the motion if we're going to go property tax or impact fee. Isn't that what I'm following?
Well, yeah, as
because
pointed
it
out,
helps you prepare one way or another.
yeah, we need to, I mean, we need to align the budget document to be as close to what the council thinks they're going to do to make the work a little bit easier as we adopt it.
I mean, I don't want to be the Grim Reaper here, but let me just emphasize what's being faced here. Is there's no identification of how you're going to get 300,000 or any amount next year to put in capital projects. You can't continue to take 135,000. I guess you could. It's not good practice in my mind to keep reducing the fund balance in non-emergency situations. So there's another 135,000. You will not have the transportation utility fee balance that's available today. So there's another $1 million. And the potential, not knowing what's going to happen with sales tax, but just so you know what's being deferred to the new city council and those that remain existing. So, okay, any other questions? Oh, I don't want to be a further Grim Reaper, but I don't think you can count on interest income like you have historically either. Okay. So do we have a motion then to approve a tentative budget for the fiscal year 2025 and 2026?
I can motion it.
Okay, Councilmember
I
Dowpaz.
I move that we approve ordinance 2025-06, which is approving fiscal year 2025-2026 tentative budget, and that we move towards property tax, truth and taxation.
Does that include the $1 million needed for roads? Are you proposing then property tax instead of a fee? Is that what you're proposing?
I'm indicating that we're going down the road of property tax and not going down the road of the transportation utility fee.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Do we have a second to Councilmember Dowpaz's motion?
I second that.
I have a second by Councilmember Severing. And I'm assuming the amount is 1.2 million in potential property, not the 3 million that was in John's. Is that,
That's what I'm tracking.
that's what you're tracking? That's what you meant? And is that what you meant to second, Councilmember Severing?
Yes, do we need to include that?
Yeah, so the new total will be 4.3 million based on what I heard, and we will take out the transportation utility fee, that $1 million that was in there.
Million two.
So it doesn't eliminate what we have in the balance from previous collections. It would just take that out. So yeah, those two lines would move opposite of each other.
So you want us to add that?
No, I'm just making sure I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just
Okay.
confirming.
Yeah.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? I see none, so we'll take a roll call vote on this. We'll start with you, Councilmember Severing,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Severing. Pulver, excuse me,
No.
Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
Motion passes on a 3-1 vote.
So that cancels the fee. There's no more discussion on that, is what you're saying.
Well, the motion was passed to include it as property tax.
Gotcha.
So in my mind, it's not impossible to bring it back up.
Yeah,
We
I
can bring
think
it
those
back
that
up,
voted
but we
for it
need to
can bring
get,
it back up.
but we
right,
need to
John?
give an indication to John of where we think that we're heading, and that's what we've done with this vote, in my opinion.
So you can't bring it back up, Councilmember Pulver,
That's
but,
good.
but the others who voted for it can.
This gives now an official public document that I will get posted tomorrow before I go home. So we'll see when I go home. That will give so that the residents now have an official, this is the tentative budget that they can start bouncing off of as they send you ideas. So.
Okay.
And just to clarify my vote, it is in my opinion, the most transparent way to get the revenues that we need by doing truth and taxation.
Thank you. Any other comments, Councilmember Barker?
one last thought on the fees. Not every resident in North Ogden pays utility fees. So this way, every resident pays property taxes.
Except those exempted from property tax, right?
Well, yeah, but not,
And I think the legislature was going to probably exempt the same folks from the fee. Wasn't there discussion on that, John, that,
well, I meant not every, so I'll speak for myself. I don't pay a utility bill because I take care of my own sewer, water, and dumpster.
Hmm.
So if we did a utility fee, I don't have a utility fee, so I personally just gave myself a property tax increase.
yeah. We'd figure a way to squeeze it out of you. Okay. I would be looking,
Yeah, exactly.
we now need to enter into the RDA and address the budget there. So I'd be looking for a motion to recess the city council meeting and convene the redevelopment agency. Do we have such a motion?
Mayor, I move that we recess the city council meeting and convene in the redevelopment agency meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember Barker. Any further discussion? All in favor of recessing the city council meeting and convening the RDA meeting, please state so.
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, RDA members, we'll now hear from Mr. Call regarding the RDA budget. Mr. Call?
It's a shame our numbers are dwindling. But you are now convened as the board. This is the same as the city budget. It's just for the redevelopment agency. You also adopt a tentative budget. And then in June, you will adopt a final budget. So truth and taxation will not impact the RDA budget. The redevelopment agency is currently still managing the budget for the redevelopment area as well as the community development area. They are on the last two pages of your budget. And essentially they are, the redevelopment area is the same as it currently is for the 24-25 fiscal year. In large part because some of these projects are going to start in June and not end till July. And so we are anticipating that that we won't spend everything by June 30th, and we don't have a good estimate. The largest item, which is the RDA general project grants, I don't anticipate we will actually do any reimbursements until next year. Scott has been contacting those involved and asking for stuff, and we have yet to receive what we would consider a full packet of information to where we feel like we could then say, yes, go ahead and start building so that we can reimburse you. You know, as requested by the board, we tried to make sure that people were living up to the expectations. And so we're trying to make those expectations really clear. And some of them have just been distracted with other things. On the community development area, you'll notice that there is an increase in property tax. Not that we're charging more, but what is happening is that more value is getting put into that area. So this is where O'Reilly's and Mountain America, for example, are in that area, and some other developments. So we're seeing an increase in property values, which then leads to more money to the community development area account. And then for expenditures, you can see that the project reserve is the majority of where that money's going. One thing I would like to talk about is the way this was originally put in the $24,000. That's kind of the next agenda item for the RDA for the, totally forgot the name of it. Anyways, the software company, Placer AI, is currently programmed in the CDA. I think that probably more appropriately would belong in the RDA expenditures. And so it wouldn't, if the council or if the board is okay, I would actually suggest that, assuming that the next budget item was a go, that could fall under the general project grants, just based on what we're seeing with a few folks dropping out. We could spend it there. And that would be based on if you wanted to or not. Not saying that you have to decide now if you're going to do, because you haven't talked about it yet. But in your motion on the next item, it would be helpful to know if you are comfortable moving forward, that you're also comfortable using it in the budget as shown with the RDA general project grants. Any questions about these budgets?
Councilmember Pulver?
Not technically the budget, but I guess the one thing on the RDA that I want to maybe put the gas down on is the 300 East commercial access. Because if UDOT says, yes, we're going to put a median in there and put a light there, that means that anybody trying to get out of Lee's is kind of, anyway, use your appropriate euphemism there. But so I guess that's something I just wanted to put on the front burner, maybe, is to figure out how we're doing that.
And that is something we have talked with
Okay.
the leading tech group about, because it is their property and essentially money that we have kind of said, hey, this is for this access point for that reason.
Any other questions of John or any information you'd like to share before we enter into a public hearing? John is as I recall, that had the expenditure for the software in there.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's currently shown as the 24,000 in the
Yeah.
CDA. And I think it's more appropriately housed in the RDA, understanding that the council or that the RDA hasn't actually said, yes, spend the money yet.
But that is in the budget.
Yes, currently.
Okay, just wanted to point that out. Anything else information-wise before we open the public hearing? If not, then I would open the public hearing regarding discussion of the RDA/CDA budget for 2025-2026. And if anyone would like to comment, they can step up to the podium once again, give us input, state their name, and the council will consider that.
Harry Wangsgard again, North Ogden resident. This budget, it includes the Placer AI software program.
It's my understanding.
And that program costs $24,000.
I believe that's the case.
It amazes me that we would spend that much money for a program which I don't understand why or what information it's going to give us. I mean, to me, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go around North Ogden and see what businesses are being successful, or even if you drive into other areas of Weber County and see what businesses are successful. I don't know if this is fact or not, rumor, but I hear the Smith's is the highest grossing grocery store in the state. I don't know if that's true. That's what I've heard. You look at the McDonald's there on the corner, that place is always packed, doing a heck of a business. You look at Nilsson's, that place is always packed. Pizza Pie Cafe that didn't used to be that busy right now is Friday and Saturday. It's slammed. There are businesses that are successful. And I hear the comments that, oh, don't open up a business in North Ogden because the residents don't support it. I totally disagree. You get the right business and the people in North Ogden will support that drastically. I don't see why we need to spend a program to do that. I've often thought, and I've heard, that Chick-fil-A is opening up a store in Pleasant View. I don't know where it's going to be put. I understand it's close to the freeway. But to me, if I were a business owner, I would have gone to Chick-fil-A and say, you take a look at the McDonald's that are right off the freeway and how much business that McDonald's does, how much business that does, and compare that to the one on 400 East and see which one produces more revenue. And take a look at the other businesses in North Ogden and the revenue that they produce, like Nilsson's, and say, where do you want to make the most money? Do you want to be out there on that strip with the Wendy's and McDonald's close to the freeway, which to me, they're not doing that well from the traffic I see. And you take a look at the traffic that's being produced right at that 2700, 2600, 400 East, and it's amazing. So I think that redevelopment, someone just needs to pay some attention and start going after businesses, selling North Ogden, selling our businesses and how much business they generate. And I think you can pull people in to the areas in North Ogden that's going to bring revenue into the city, because I do think North Ogden residents support their businesses as long as it's the right business.
Thank you, Carrie.
I know it's a public hearing. I'm confused. With the RDA, I thought the RDA was done. And that was, we took all of the money from the RDA and did it to the pool and gave it to the businesses. But now the RDA still has a budget. I'm confused.
John, would you like to answer that question?
Sure. So that's the money, the RDA general project grants that I mentioned where Scott had been out talking with businesses and hadn't got enough information to actually give anybody money yet or give them the go ahead. That's the money that's still there, which means we still have to house it and manage it until that money hits zero. And it has not hit zero yet because the businesses haven't met their obligations to us yet.
But it's no longer bringing in more money. It's just what should be there.
Correct. If you look at the revenue, the property tax and all those are all zeros. It's just spending fund balance.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm assuming that's interest income, John, there's money being earned on that.
Yes, there is $50,000 in interest income in there.
And I believe that there was an assumption that when those grants were given, they wouldn't all be used. And any leftover money could be used for city projects. Is that my recollection?
Yes, that's what we talked about was when we know what's left over to spend it on
Well, it
some.
may be correct to make the
infrastructure.
assumption that the $24,000 that is referenced there would come out of either reduction in city projects or excess money not identified,
Correct.
like the interest income of 50,000. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Kevin Burns from North Ogden. I have just a question on the Placer program. Are there other benefits to that program? I seem to remember we were going to be able to kind of track some of the folks that were coming and going, maybe from parks and some of those types of places, so we could measure their usage, and maybe I just misheard that. So,
John, would you
There's
like
some-
to reemphasize those?
Sorry, I missed that. I got an email about it.
Kevin was saying that there's other benefits that had been discussed regarding being able to track usage of parks. For instance, when we have, the pool, is it generating more sales tax of people there? They're coming from the pool and spending money. I think Kevin's thing is,
There are some benefits there. And a good example is knowing which businesses our residents are going to in Riverdale or wherever that would likely they would go to here in North Ogden. That's part of the point of the software. And the gentleman who's the next on the agenda is listening to this, with Scott. And so he can probably even answer these questions a little better about the goals of the software and how it can accomplish that.
Thank you.
okay. Anyone else, John, online or here, that would like to comment during the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, then I would look for a motion to close the public hearing from members of the RDA board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. Board Member Barker and Board Member Pulver. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to close the public hearing is unanimous. We'll now then look at any further questions or a motion to approve the RDA budget, which would be done by ordinance 2025-07, which would be approving the RDA fiscal year budget as presented by Mr. Call. Any further questions, Mr. Call, before we have a motion?
Just a reminder, you do have to pass a tentative budget by 12 PM tonight or 12 AM. And it's not usual, but with only 3 of you here, you do have to be unanimous to pass anything because it's an ordinance. You need a majority of the council, not just a majority of those present. So,
Okay.
We might not get to go home.
so you could filibuster, I guess, if you want to.
Dare you. Okay.
Mayor, I move. Are we prepared?
Sure.
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 2025-07, approving the RDA fiscal year 2025-2026 tentative budget.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Severing. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call
We
vote.
need to add, do we need to say where the AI software is going?
That's in the next one, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the council or the RDA board can make that decision in the next, if you want to, right? I mean, there's no obligation by passing this that you would then also say yes to that.
However, it is in the budget, isn't it, John? So if they approve the budget, they're approving the expenditure for that?
It could be in the budget. And what I mean is
That's in the budget that you've presented that they're going to approve, correct?
the way
Software?
the way I presented it was that it get moved from the CDA into the RDA, understanding that that general project grant money is run by the board. And so the board would, I think, then after the next thing, need to make a motion saying, yes, spend the money on that. I know it sounds, and it's a little nuanced. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I would assume to me, if they're going to approve the budget and that expenditure's in there, that the expenditure's approved.
So the way that I recommended it is that it not be included in the CDA budget. And
Okay.
there's not a specific line item in the RDA budget for it. I'm just saying that all the stuff that's projected to be expended under 65, 45, 50 are the items that the board approved 4 or 5 months ago. So currently that 24,000 is not in there, but it could be added in there without adding it as a specific line
So
item.
let me ask, should we address the next item? Because here we're going to approve a budget without it, and then we're going to turn around and amend the budget we just approved if we put it in there. Should we be addressing that as part of the budget now?
You can do it that way if you want
Well,
to.
I'm just saying, if we approve a budget and it's not in there,
Like to, yeah.
and then we turn around and just approve it, it just seems
Well, so
backwards.
in the budget this year and next year, you have.
Could we do this, John? If the members of the board want to purchase that software, could we have a motion to amend the budget to include that and then forget item number 10? Because it seems like to me we're approving a budget that doesn't have the expenditure in it, and then we're turning around and approving expenditure that's not in the budget. Could we do that and save ourselves some time by just amending the motion to amend the budget to include that purchase if the board wants
If
to
you
do
did that as part of it, you could, yeah.
Okay. Although I believe we have a motion. Would you like to retract your motion and
Amend it.
or amend it?
Well, I actually had some additional questions about the Placer AI, so guess we're tackling number 9 right now.
Now it's number 10.
Because JD's moved up.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, all right. So, I mean, I remember when that was presented initially, I was really interested in it. But in my time on the council, I have seen a couple of software packages be purchased, and I don't know if we've really gotten the ROI on them. That's just from a perspective for me. So I'm really wondering about whether the Placer AI is really going to be something beneficial, or do we just put that $24,000 into another city? repair or something.
So at this point in time, you're saying you're not amending your motion.
Nope.
Okay.
Because that was a question I was going to ask if we were going to be discussing note number 10. So I'm asking the question now.
Councilmember Barker, you have a
Is,
comment?
is it possible to have the Placer AI discussion and then approve the budget?
Yes, it is possible.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Couldn't we do
Can
that?
I make a
and interrupt
motion
her?
that we jump to the next item on the agenda?
However, we have a motion on the table
Yep.
and a second.
Not by me.
No, second it.
No one seconded, so we just have a motion.
I thought you seconded it.
I thought you did.
You seconded it.
Well, I only made my comment because I thought the mayor had wanted to just include 10 as part of our discussion on
I
that.
do, but we have a motion on the table that's
Okay.
been seconded.
So I don't remember ever having to rescind a motion.
If it's been seconded, then you do typically.
So I would just say something like, I rescind my motion of ordinance 2025-07, approving the RDA fiscal year 2025-26 tentative budget.
Does the second have to second that, or can he do that on his own, John?
He
I've
can
never
do it on
figured-
his own because you essentially, just like a second could rescind their second
All
if they
right.
wanted.
Rescind my second.
So now do we have a motion to include the discussion of item 10M before we approve the RDA budget?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Parker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. John? You want to lead the discussion on that?
Good luck.
On,
I want Scott and Chris to do it because they know it.
Hey everyone, it's Chris at Placer. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great, thanks for having me. And I believe Scott was going to make the intro. Is Scott here? I can only see part of the screen. Okay, great.
Okay, so we have Chris Van Ribbenk with Placer AI. He's presented to us twice now. He's joined us for two presentations. This will be the third presentation. And then myself, and we'll go through this. I think there were some excellent questions asked. North Ogden's kind of an interesting community. I like to call us a destination community. You don't just find yourself here. So to get a Chick-fil-A or one of these major retailers to locate in North Ogden, you have to convince them that you have the people here, the funding here, and the daytime population, because we don't have a freeway exit. We don't have a major state road that you're just traveling through. You have to choose to come north out of Ogden through Harrisville into North Ogden, or you've got to drive several miles off the freeway up 2600 North. So we really don't benefit from the pass-through traffic. 2600 in Washington Boulevard absolutely attracts a whole bunch of traffic. But when we did our Southtown study, and we spent luckily only 10% on the match because we received a grant, but we spent $100,000 analyzing the Southtown area, Kurt's Plaza, the old Macy's, where Pizza Man is, and all of that. Spent $110,000, and $20,000 of that went to Zion's Public Finance for a leakage study on a retail leakage analysis that probably had a shelf life of 6 to 12 months as the market moves. The nice thing about the Placer AI software is that you can pull a leakage analysis based on any in particular location in your city every single day. 365 days a year, you could pull that analysis, and we can provide it to business owners, property owners, people who are trying to sell their buildings, new buildings coming up out of the ground who are asking us, what are some retailers that might fit in North Ogden? Because the data is more complex than you might think. It's not as easy as just reaching out to Trader Joe's and saying, hey, we have a really high cost of living here, or a really high area median income here, and 20,000 people from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. you should locate here. It's just not the way it works. I mean, they look at traffic patterns, traffic volumes, road connections, and North Ogden is an interesting location. But the other thing that we have is this is place-based software that analyzes through a proprietary blend of Bluetooth-based cell phone tracking that can't be tracked back to an individual, but it shows us where people were, where they ended up in our city, and where they're going. So we have a pretty good understanding of Smith Marketplace is, as we understand, one of the most heavily used Kroger stores or Smith stores in the state of Utah. And we will know exactly from what zip code those people are coming and then where they're going next. So if they're hitting Smith's and then they're going to Olive Garden, you know, maybe we can reach out to Olive Garden and say, hey, you should come up here because you have a whole bunch of captive North Ogden people who are already going down here, and we'd like you to put one up in North Ogden. So that's that's one use case, the kind of leakage reports that we can pull anytime we want. There's void analysis, which is who are the best fit retailers based on our area median income, our population, our demographics, and then understanding retail performance. But there's several uses for this, and I tried to provide use cases. And one I thought was really interesting is the events and tourism is what they would call it. But Cherry Days is an event that Placer AI has 7 years of back data. And I've been here for 4 years and the parade has moved around. And we have had several public comments about where the parade can be located. And we could go back and analyze through a geofencing of the day, the time, and the location, the number of people who came to the parade, how it was best served, where they came from, where they went after, and really have an understanding of whether 3100, 2600, or Washington Boulevard is the best location for the parade based on several statistics. And those are not statistics that we can get any other way. I mean, you could pull the entire city of North Ogden and see what they say, but you know, who's going to remember 7 years ago attending the parade and where they went after and where they came from and where they parked and how they enjoyed it. So the software, that's another use. And then the other is parks utilization. So understanding the number of visits and visitors to all parks, trails, and open space, we can geofence all of our parks and do an annual analysis and see what is the highest use day of any of our parks. So for instance, the Smith's grocery store, and I wish I had this for Lee's too, Mayor, but the Smith's grocery store, who wants to guess, and you've seen it, but what the highest visitor day is at Smith's?
Mother's Day.
It's the day before Mother's Day. That's either a bunch of people buying, you know, it's a bunch of the people going out and buying food and gifts and any number of things from Smith's, but that is the highest, the peak day
I was
of
there.
Smith's. So you're sure?
I was one of them.
You're there in the lines that are 50 feet long. So parks, event analysis, and then planning and transportation. So we just spent a work session last week riding around in a hay trailer looking at the roadways. And we have a limited capital facilities budget, as any city does. Using software like this, we can analyze where people are coming, where people are going, what our highest trafficked and utilized roads are. And the only other way to get that data is to rent or purchase tube counters or other counting equipment and stick it out there and analyze it for several weeks and move it around and analyze it for several weeks and then compare and contrast between all of these roads. So understanding the highest use roads will help us take our limited capital facilities dollars and improve those highest traffic roads first. You know, keep them in pristine condition, keep them in higher condition because they're going to get beaten up faster, they're going to be used more. It makes the community look better. And it helps us understand the commuter data, you know, where people are coming and where people are going. So I see several use cases for the software. The $24,000, it's a sunk cost in some ways. If we bring in one retailer that's a sales tax revenue generating retailer, we could pay that $24,000 back. But I think just in understanding what our mowing schedules would be and our reseeding schedules in our parks based on utilization would be potentially, we could see that savings and that understanding. I spoke with South Ogden City, Summer Palmer, who's the assistant city manager. They are in the same consideration as we are right now in purchasing the software. as well as Jenica Jones with Orem City, and they have owned the software now for several years and have used it for a number of reasons. But a lot of it is that event planning, travel and road planning, and then the Sure sites are showing businesses who could be here. And I don't know about you, but what I have heard from some of our developers is, well, you're North Ogden, so you're hard to get retailers here. So what we think we're going to do is we're going to stick a tunnel car wash, or we're going to stick a use that isn't as high sales tax producing. And the software lets us ground truth that. We can look at the software, look at who are potential retailers and ask them, you know, pointedly, have you reached out to X, Y, and Z retailers? Because these three seem to fit our demographics and our population almost 100% with no cannibalization of other communities that they're already located in. So show us that you've reached out to these folks. So this would be a real foot forward for economic development that I don't think the city has done for several years, you know, 5, 6, 7 years. And it seems like a good place to start to try to reach out to those businesses. Cold calling them without truly understanding the demographics is really difficult. So that's the only pitch I'll make. And if Chris has anything to add, happy to have him add it. Staff's recommendation is that I think the RDA is a great place to utilize it. That's where Orem City is paying for it, and where South Ogden City would look at paying for their software, because there is a direct link between business generation and utilizing the software. And I'll let, you know, if Chris has anything to add, let him add that, and then I'll take any questions.
Yeah, happy to jump in here, Scott. I actually spoke to South Ogden today. We launched and got them up and running today. But yeah, just to tailor off what you said, I think it's just really important that, you know, we live in like a very data-driven world now. Like, these retailers have huge comprehensive data teams, and their site selection process is, you know, not as simple as like looking at traffic, right? It's all about understanding, like, you know, how many people visit there? What are the types of people? What are their interests and brands? Where do they currently shop now, right? So, you know, it's great to know that, you know, we don't just work with Civic customers. We work with thousands of retailers who use our data for site selection. So we see that cities who actually use this type of data with their developers, or approach this data with retailers, it's something familiar. It's something that they trust, right? So I just wanted to call that out, and we do a really good job here. Reason why we're a very fast growing company, the reason why we're bringing on around 30 Civic customers a week at this point, is because we don't just give you a software and say, hey, good luck. We have the resources where, you know, we will set up weekly, bi-weekly meetings. We give you a consultant. We want to be laser focused on each department's projects and priorities over the next year or so, and help you apply that data, right? So yeah, we've gone through some comprehensive, you know, evaluations with Scott and team, and really appreciate the interest here, and happy to field any questions that anyone has.
Any questions for Chris online? Councilmember Fuller?
Not so much a question, but I did play around with the software, just the free aspects of it, and I just kind of amazing as to how much data you can gather from it with just a couple of clicks of the button, without, you know, there's a couple of geofencing things like that I thought were really awesome. And just some of the things in previous briefings that they've kind of played with that show just the Lee's area and different things about, because it's not so much where people go, it's where they go after. You know, if they go to Smith's, where do they go after? Or like with the pool situation, you know, hey, somebody goes to the pool and then goes to, you know, a Swig or wherever, you know, or by anecdotal information, obviously, you know, a certain pizza joint. But, you know, I think there's a lot of things that, so it can help us make decisions such, you know, with the pool, you know, hey, is it really something that brings in more tax dollars than we're thinking about? Because, you know, for some of the big decisions that we're talking about is, you know, say pay to play, but, you know, that type of thing, pool may never break even. And I guess that's the question. But if it does bring in more sales tax dollars than anything else that we have as a city, then maybe we go, okay, well, just let it go. You know, we're going to have to pay for it, but we're going to make it up in sales tax. Something like that is the software, I think, is going to help us enormously make decisions based on that. And then other things like we're talking about parks, I think that's huge too, because then we can kind of decide hey, that nobody ever visits this park, so we do really need to develop this park versus, something that's used 24/7. Just my thoughts.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Severing?
So I guess my big, and this, let me preface this by saying this is actually, economic development is really one of my interests, but there's a part of me that wonders if we have to buy the software, or couldn't we just have somebody come and do a Placer AI experience test in North Ogden and call it good? I mean, I worry about, here's some of the thoughts. I mean, it's not that it's overly expensive, but who is reaching out? Is that going to be something that you or Ryan are going to be doing once we get this data?
Yeah, so we have retailers that build, well, commercial developers that will build buildings and then say, what does North Ogden need? And I'm in the business of entitlement. I do subdivisions and zoning and answer any number of questions, and urban chickens, and when is a hedge a fence, and all sorts of really important urban planning questions. But I am not a market analysis guru. That's not my primary job. So when somebody who has built a 10,000 square foot building that's carved into 4 2,500 square foot bays, and they say, what do you need? Anecdotally, I can say, well, we need food and we need sales tax revenue producing places, because our budget is a three-legged stool of sales tax revenues that we receive off of taxes or fees, and then property taxes. But I can't tell them exactly who the right retailer is to reach out to. And this software helps guide that by saying, this is your demographic. These are the type of people that you have in your city. These are their area median incomes. And I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's something like, 300 million people in the US, and there's 30 million software, or 30 million phones that are connected to this. So it's a statistically relevant data source that they can project out. And so they have a pretty good idea of the people you have in your community and what those businesses that typically know more than, know more about your community than you do when they come in and want to locate there. So that's one use case, I guess, for the software. But if you do a one and done, if you pay a public finance company to come in and do this type of leakage analysis, it really might be good for 6 months, maybe 12 months, because the market just moves really quickly. So it's not something that's dynamic that you can update and look at again and again. And just given my history of paying for several of these when I worked for Wasatch Front Regional Council, they will far exceed $20 to $24,000, depending on the size of the analysis that you want to do.
So I guess in the back of my mind, you make an interesting comment, Scott. These guys that are coming in know more about our community than we do. So wouldn't they have already used the AI to determine that they need to be here?
They might not have even realized North Ogden was the location to look at. So I'm saying like a Target. If a Target or Walmart knocks on your door, or Costco knocks on your door, they know more about your community than you do. They've done more market research on the leakage analysis, on the cannibalization. They locate those extremely strategically. And that isn't just the large retailers. That's smaller ones of the world as well. So those are your Chick-fil-A's of the world. They located in Pleasant View near the freeway entrance for a very specific reason.
This would be something that be used on a daily basis, not necessarily one time.
Right.
Yep. And you can have unlimited users. So you could put, your park superintendent in this, public works, engineering. It could be used a number of different ways. It's not a single use license, and we can use it 10 different ways in the city, and hopefully pull the benefit of that $24,000 out of it.
What other questions do you have for Scott or Chris? Okay, thank you very much. So, board members, you have the information. Seems like all your questions were answered in regards to Placer AI. So the question would be, whoever would like to make a motion to approve the RDA budget, the question is, should that be included in the budget or not? So at this point in time, I would seek out a motion regarding the RDA budget for fiscal year 26, which is the 2025-2026 budget. This is ordinance 2025-07. So at this time, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I motion to pass the ordinance 2025-07 approving the RDA fiscal year 2025-26 tentative budget with Placer AI software in the RDA section.
In the amount of 24,000.
The amount of 24,000.
Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Second made by Councilmember Barker. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll start with you, Councilmember Severing. It's just the normal.
Time when I respond.
No, it's just the normal process of you voting first, even though
Right.
there's two members
I'm
gone.
still contemplating.
Okay,
But I guess if I were to say no, then we don't have a quorum.
well, the budget wouldn't pass and we'd have to go back to
We'd have to go back to start over.
another motion to get where we want to be, according to Mr. Call.
Well, I just think if we do that, then I would sure like to see some really, I'd really like to hear like some consistent updates on what's, what we've used it for, where we've seen some, return on investment. So I will say yes under those conditions.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Severing. Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously to approve the 2025-2026 RDA budget, including expenditure of the software for Placer AI. Okay? So I believe we're down to, do you have something else, John?
I was just gonna say, council.
We need to
this-
reconvene the council meeting, but
Oh, that's true. So RDA board members, you just passed the tentative budget, which will be finalized in June, and then money would then be authorized to be spent on July 1st. So in theory, you may have 5 board members at that meeting in June who could also vote on the final budget, which would authorize the expenses. So.
all right. With that, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn the RDA meeting and reconvene the regular city council meeting.
Mayor, so moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Councilmember Pulver or Board Member Pulver and Board Member Severing / council member. Any further discussion? All in favor of adjourning the RDA meeting and reconvening the city council meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the council meeting is now reconvened. And we'll go on to item number 11. Councilmember Dowpaz had another commitment and had to leave, but we do have the chief of police with us. Is there anything, chief, you'd like us to know or the citizens to know that would be of importance? You want to step up here if you'd like to make that report, then everyone can hear you.
The report on the North Ogden Police Department this week is we have 2 new officers that have just started. They're on a probationary period, and we've instituted our new policy manual. So we had a couple busy weeks, but we're moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that report. Councilmember Severing, do you have anything you'd like to report on building and planning?
Yes, Bank of America is continuing to build. Century Farms Townhome Project has completed their pre-construction meeting south of the Coldwater Animal Hospital. Barker Depot is working on grading and underground utilities behind Walgreens and America First Credit Union, for those who don't know. And then Cooperstown Apartments is under construction. Oh, and that's south of Ogden, or the
Walker
Coldwater
Theaters.
Animal Hospital and the theaters.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All
That's
right,
all.
thank you. Councilmember Barker, would you like to report anything on the Parks Department?
Yes, so Jamie got with me and said Orton Playground fence installation will begin tomorrow. Zero scaping will commence next week. They should have it all wrapped up and reopening around the end of May or beginning of June. They had the bid closing today for bicentennial RDA fund projects. They had 2 bids, so they're going through the process of picking their winner. And then they have we'll have their full crew of seasonal help starting May 27th to get all the parks mowed, trimmed, edged, and cleaned up.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you'd like to report?
No.
Okay, thank you for that report. Now we'll have public comments. Once again, if you'd step up to the podium and follow our public comments rules of stating your name, your resident, and please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes.
Sandy Cochran, North Ogden resident. To those council members who voted to try to find a way to leave comments on your Facebook page, thank you for that. To those who are not that familiar with the city's Facebook page, there's not that much traffic on there. There aren't that many posts. So it's not really that big of a deal. There would be no way you would need an employee just for that. And most people who comment there have come to realize that they're not going to get responses to their comments. I've commented there. I've even asked questions there, knowing I won't get a response, and that's fine. That's what we've come to expect. And to whoever said for us to go to the other North Ogden pages to post our comments, seriously? The reason people comment on that page is because they want the city to see what their opinions are. To ask us to go, I mean, and if you all are not looking at that page, why would we post on these other pages knowing confidently that you're definitely not going to be looking there for our comments? I mean, that's just tell us you don't care, you don't want to hear it. That would be a lot simpler for us.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Meryl?
Harold Sunderland, North Ogden resident. You had some really serious discussions this evening. The least of those were the Facebook comment discussion, but I need to weigh in on this. The votes that you just took, Facebook comments, trying to remember way back, 2 votes this evening, if I got that right. It was really impressive to see the different hypothetical opinions expressed this evening over the discussion of that, and the 2 that are now missing were 1 vote, 3 that are here, the other vote. I fully expect this to be brought up again. This issue is going to be readdressed. But if I can give a little background, if I can remember some background to this, it appears this started as an alternative to the Community Connection magazine. That was to get calendar events, city highlights listed, a few things. I liked reading it. It's gone, right? It's now not happening anymore. That magazine had no opinion or comment section. The issue appears to be 2 separate issues: a news information board and a place for comments and opinions, a place. And I'm wondering if the use of a social media route to do an information board may not be the best route. It seems that that has mixed and clouded the issue of the follow-on for that community magazine. That's my observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Meryl. John, anyone online? Mr. Swanson?
Phil Swanson, North Ogden, one more time. just a quick thank you for the discussions tonight. Thank you for the being willing to sit up there and take on these difficult issues and make difficult decisions on our behalf. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Brenda Ashdown, I live in North Ogden. You have the TV up here and you have the two back there, but the two back there don't work. You put the stuff up here. We can't see it back there. I know it's my fault. I sit in the back row because I don't want to be on the camera. Are they not working for a specific reason? You don't like them? Yes, no, maybe so?
John?
I don't know why they're not on. I hadn't noticed.
But we can get them
Yeah,
on in the
neither one. This
future.
one used to work all the time. Then this one did for a little while, and now neither one of them are. So when you go through your, your maps and those kind of things, we have no access to see them. Thank you.
Okay. John, we can work on getting those going, I'm sure. Okay. Anything else? All right, we'll close public comments then. I don't see anyone online with their hand raised. Any comments from staff? Bryce, Dave, Scott, Chief, Sergeant? All right. How about from council members? Councilmember Pulver.
Just glad to see Brenda back in the room. Anyway.
Okay.
And then Susan did, she's got already like half a policy done already, I think, for Facebook. So she texted me that already. So,
Oh, good.
and I think she'd be more than willing to help on that too, as a side help.
Okay.
It's pretty
Well-
dang intense, isn't it?
We'll be anxious to see the policy. Okay, anything else, council? John, I forgot to call on you. I apologize.
Ryan gave me my reminder note that I asked her to help me with. We do have a group council who is looking at trying to do Bye Bye Birdie sometime in late August, early September. As a play, they've approached the city about a similar arrangement that we had with the Broadway on the Side group about using the amphitheater and then using any money they make extra would stay. They're actually proposing that the city would essentially get all the money from any additional proceeds, assuming it would go towards future shows and and activities at the amphitheater. So they're actually trying to fundraise from some other communities as well. They would love it if we give them $5,000. I kind of said, hey, I'm not sure that would be in the cards, but I do think theater is a good thing. And assuming they get some money from Plain City, Harrisville, Pleasant View, and Far West are who they're pitching, they would be moving forward with the show here. It would be a paid show, so you'd have to buy a ticket to attend, but all that money would go towards the production, and then they would essentially donate the rest to the city to move forward with more productions in the future. So just want to let you know that's happening, and if they get a little traction under them, then we will have them come and present to the council and talk to you a little bit more about it. Just wanted you to have a heads up and know that there are groups out there who are interested in using the facility. And I think Bryce will tell you that we've got quite a few things. We've got a play going on next weekend. This weekend. So they've done all their rehearsals and other stuff, and then they rented the amphitheater for their performance this weekend. So
Is that on our calendar, on our website?
probably not.
Oh.
So
Okay, anything else, John?
no, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I have no comments. But Councilmember Watson's not here to adjourn us, so well, now what do we do?